Wow. Skynet, oi. Terminator.
You know, I was joking about the moose hunters calling, hey, you know, where the moose having sex? Like, that really is part of the planning, you know? They're not nuts. Like, it really is. You want to know where they are,
It's an
right?
important detail, yeah.
Yeah, a friend of mine, when he was planning a hunt, he called all the gas stations in a given area and asked, like, hey, are you seeing moose?
Are they fucking?
Yeah, I didn't ask if they were banging around, but
I think they make really weird noises, right?
I don't know about when they're doing it. I've never been around.
I don't know what kind of porn you're watching.
yeah.
But
No.
I have no idea what noises they're
Strange
making.
question to
or
ask, really.
Stuff like that. I don't know the way, but at least.
Like, I had a guy tell me,
Three
you know,
masks.
oh, the latest study says this, and then what I'm gonna do is this, and then he went out for a cigarette, and it's like, what the fuck do you care about the disease if you're smoking cigarettes? Like, Jesus, priorities, man. Like,
Yeah, because I guess hunting in a rope or a miniskirt is not really comfortable.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
the breeze.
But it's
The
really
freaking
good.
How do you
though.
explain
It's
Scotland?
really good
then?
for the moose, though. It's really convenient, just so you can like come to your back and fuck you. Just lift the skirt.
Am I on a different podcast or something? Is this like a bestiality podcast?
It's a bestiality.
And killing babies. Yeah.
That's the kind of conversation I want to hear in Parliament, you know? Like, no, we should legalize moose fucking you up the ass. No, shitting in the bucket is important.
And then there's
That's the real issue. My people, the shitter in the buckets.
They've been shitting in the bucket since the dawn of time.
My friend Brent is the duck hunting expert for this area. He has particular reasons. If the wind's a certain way, you gotta go to
Okay,
this.
if the wind is there.
Yeah, exactly like that.
The ducks are
And
fucking right there.
He knows.
I know.
Like, the man.
Our nation drinks a lot, even
Yeah.
statistically, like top
COVID's
5
making
almost.
Well, it's the
Everyone
top in
drink a
Europe,
lot, man.
so per capita.
Insane. I think Belarus kind of,
No,
Oh,
in
thank
Europe we're
God.
top
yeah,
by per capita. Yeah.
we're fucked.
No, come on, we're funny.
We are funny though, yeah.
We're
It's
happy.
not alcoholism, it's humor.
Serve the masculinity.
You like that?
It's not a compliment. I'm not weak. I'm a man. Just if you follow the logic of censoring, it always goes down to that tyranny.
Yeah, but that's the thing. We live in a very atypical time where it's not as much censoring as
Is it though?
self-censoring.
Is it that atypical? Or
It's
is-
atypical because there's more self-censoring than just censoring for this, like just by being censored by someone, you know.
You know what? By the time Dima fucking comes with this whole fucking kit, might as well start the podcast. I don't give a shit.
Life's the podcast.
Huh?
Life's the podcast.
Yeah, life is a podcast. Except, I mean, not a lot of people are watching when you're just living.
I hope not.
Yeah.
That'd be weird.
Yeah, that's a weird thing, to be honest. I mean, I don't know if it's a weird thing. Like the need to constantly record your fucking life, you know, take photos.
It's insane.
It's too much. I realize it in myself. Like when I travel, I try to like minimize it because it's too much. Like I'm like, okay, I'll take some photos and then like
Few
fuck off.
dozen.
Let me just enjoy the time.
Yeah.
'cause-
Of cool stuff. Like you see something cool,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, this deserves
Yeah,
one.
but just like.
Oh, fuck. You got real cigars. Nice.
Shit.
Wow, you like us.
This is the time to like. So our sponsor is, but
Heineken.
not. But we hope.
Are gonna be Heineken and cigars for you.
Yeah, cigars for you.
But I love
man.
this store because it's really next to my place. But I love the. I mean, now I don't know the selection because you can't go in. And this one are actually priced than before. But normally they have like great fucking specials for great cigars. Like, you can get good ones for like 13, 14.
Nice.
Okay. No.
Yeah, it's. I noticed that the most at like rock concerts and at just any music concerts.
Yeah, it's hard.
Even in me, I'm like, ah, fuck. Like sometimes I had
Go
this,
ahead. There's the
you know, the urge to just fucking
Inside.
film it. I'm like, ah, fuck. What am I doing? You know? And then I catch myself like, I
Yeah.
came here to see the band. I didn't come here to fucking film it. And the irony is, you're not gonna watch the fucking videos afterwards.
You know
You
the
don't give a
worst is when like you know, two people who went to the same concert. Oh, I guess I have the cutter. You want the bag back? You know, like two people will go to the same concert.
Yeah.
And then, like, you see the exact same footage from a different angle.
Exactly. Like, what's the fucking point?
I mean, like, I guess if there's like an earthquake or something, thank God these people filmed it. You know.
Yeah, but the
I
fucking
guess.
concert.
Do you need that? I don't know.
It's like the abundance of. I mean, I get the irony right now. We're like recording what we're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, it's. Really,
But I don't know.
It's not the same.
It's
We're
a bit
here on
different. Yeah.
purpose.
we're working.
No, it's not that. I mean, we're having fun, but again, the idea of the podcast was born in like fucking 3 a.m. when we had having one of those long discussions with Dima, and like Nelly was there too, and I think you suggested it. Fuck, like wow.
Yeah,
It's too bad we don't record it. But you kind of said it like in a joke.
No, I said I wish we were recording this.
Yeah, and I'm like, and I said, yeah, why not? Like, let's do it. Like, let's try.
Yeah.
And then in the next few hours, we're thinking about the name, and then
And we
Nelly
came up with the
suggested
name
it.
and the logo.
Yeah.
What's the name
Nelly
again?
suggested
Aberații
the name,
Temă.
Yeah, what's
How do you translate
which
Aberații?
means like aberrations. No, is there?
Yeah,
I said the word,
we
you didn't
tried that.
understand
It didn't. Aberrations.
I think there might be in English. It might be in English as well.
Yeah, I don't know.
This you got.
Yeah, you do it. You're the expert.
Did I do it wrong?
No.
I guess that's the. Oh, this is the official. Now we're.
We're in.
Now we're in.
Now we're serious. Before this, we were fucking around, but now we're just.
I guess we don't need to start in Romanian like we did last time. We can just start in English right away. So today we have sitting with us in the middle, Nick Cardelli. Nick is a former coworker and now again a coworker because I came back to the same job.
Repetitive coworker.
And he's a pretty interesting guy. He's no, I mean like for me it was really weird because when I just met him, it was when we were driving from Toronto to London, and then we started talking, and then I realized how many common points we have, and then that's when I heard about the fact that he's a hunter, which is really weird because how old are you?
25.
And you started like when you were what, 22, 23?
No, I was probably 18 or 19. Yeah, because that's when you can get your gun license, when you're 18, to get your own, in Canada. And nobody.
When you're 18.
When you're 18, yeah.
But you can't drink until you're 19.
No.
That makes absolute
But you
sense.
can join the
Zero
army.
sense.
You can join
No,
the
that makes
army
no
at
sense.
17, eh? The army's 17 if your parents say it's cool, but you can't have
So
a
wait,
beer.
so you can die for your country at 17. You cannot drink.
But don't
So
drink
you-
until you're 19.
I
No.
mean, you can kill a man.
Oh,
but
in Quebec though.
Yeah.
There it's 18.
Yeah.
I mean,
Our age limit is also 18, but I think we start usually around 12. And that's if you're really
the
old
drinking?
soul. Yeah.
even earlier, man, to be honest. If you're talking about
Yeah.
like wine sips,
Yeah, well, that's different.
Yeah, but that's the thing I had since
That's
I was like
different?
10 or something.
it
Even
depends who you
here,
ask.
like it's culture here, you know.
Yeah.
Like when I was young, something my nonna would like to make for me was just peaches and red wine, and you just have like you don't drink the wine, but they give you the peaches out of that.
Oh,
Right.
that's
Oh,
the
it's
best
so
thing
good.
ever. It's so
Yeah,
good.
and I mean,
when you
like as a
saute-
kid,
you saute or like
you just let it sit
yeah.
in a cup. It's so good, red wine and peaches.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I think that's what it's called.
Sangria
drunken
for
peach
babies.
or something like that. It's an actual dessert. It's really freaking good. I tried it, but it was like had different things in the wine, and also with some whipped cream on the side. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's good. So I mean, here the culture is very much that like alcohol is related to intoxication, and that's what it is. Like it's an intoxicant, and like I don't even know if that's a word.
Probably.
Sounds.
I
like
mean,
one.
again, you're talking to two non.
Yeah,
speakers,
true.
so-
Everybody's ESL here except for
Intoxicant,
you.
yeah. Sounds like one of those words
You just make up on the spot.
I took from like Romanian and tried
Yeah.
to convert it into English. Intoxicant. Yeah. I think it's a word.
Whereas like in Europe, you know, it's very much like
More of a
it's just
culture.
part of
It's
dinner,
part of the
you
culture,
know?
you know?
Yeah.
It's true.
And having like an
Yeah.
Italian background, like that was very much the same growing up. Like wine with dinner is part of dinner. It's not like, oh, we're getting drunk now.
But
And
are you like second generation or third generation?
Third generation.
So basically, your grandparents were the
My
first ones to come.
all of my grandparents came here in the 50s, I believe, early 50s. So they did all kinds of like labor, in construction mostly, and then both of my nonas just did like odd jobs and worked in factories and stuff like that.
What a weird time.
Huh?
What a weird time, because most of the time that immigration, the early immigration, I don't know, starting with like the 20s, right, and all the way up until like 70s, 80s, it was mostly people coming and then just like doing regular jobs. Like now people think about, okay, I want to immigrate and start working in a good company right away. Have skills that are readily available and you can apply them right away.
Well, it hadn't been built yet.
Yeah,
Wasn't there?
Yeah, Toronto even, when I look at the photos.
Yeah, in the 50s it wasn't
Even
the same.
70s looks so different than what it is now. So you would call yourself a Canadian?
Yeah, 100%. Like born in Canada, raised in Canada, very much like a Westerner.
yeah, but
you
then
know.
again, like the thing is that I got the experience to go to school here, so I was always older than my peers, right? Especially my first year. And that's the thing, because you're very different from like the typical, the stereotypical Canadian. I don't know.
Well, like, did you play hockey when you were a kid? Exactly.
Yeah,
So like
that's
right
pretty
there.
Canadian, yeah.
Yeah, but like it's so uniquely Canadian, and it's changing now. Like
It doesn't
soccer
feel like
is
that
super
anymore.
popular.
Like especially
No.
when you're in Toronto, like there's no
It's soccer and
the
basketball
buzz,
now.
The buzz itself is like kind of gone. Like when you go to Montreal, you see more people going crazy about the Canadian Montrealers versus
Montreal's different.
yeah.
There, it's like a religion.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more like soccer in Europe is hockey in Montreal.
Yeah,
Which
makes
is
sense.
weird, because I mean, like not weird, but then again, like Toronto Maple Leafs was the staple hockey team for a long time, like up until 60s and 70s, right? Along with the Canadian.
Well, there were only
Montrealers.
6 teams for like the early few decades. And like I'm not a hockey historian by any stretch.
But you're talking
so.
to two people that have no.
Yeah, no, I
zero.
know, but there's people
I
from
know Wayne
Canada who
Gretzky,
would
I
hear
know who
this
Wayne
and
Gretzky
just
is.
be like, "You fucking moron!" Like that's not what happened. But like originally, it was just 6 teams. So it was Chicago, Detroit, Toronto, Montreal, New York, I think.
So really only the East Coast.
Yeah, exactly,
Basically,
right?
yeah.
But that's where the development was at the time, because this is like
Yeah.
early 1900s.
Yeah, because for me, the new team the new franchise from Las Vegas, I think.
The Golden
LA,
Knights.
Or no,
Yeah.
the
Las
is it
Vegas
Las
Golden Knights.
or
Yeah,
Los
yeah.
Angeles. Yeah, that's sounds a bit weird. Just a tiny bit, just because like it seems so unnatural,
Hockey,
so unnecessary.
Hockey. In the middle of the desert. You know what? Fucking hockey. That's
Yeah.
what. Like,
Arizona.
We need
That's what
hockey.
just like defines Americans, because I'll never forget this moment when we went to the canyon 2 years ago, to the Grand
Yeah.
Canyon.
Oh my god.
And we were flying, and like you just fly over the desert, pitch black, nothing, and then just like bam in the middle of nowhere, just like
Just
tons of lights, just like
the
what
light,
the fuck?
you
Like,
see it like half a mile up. Just the
glow from the
Yeah,
light.
the glow.
But, like even from the airplane, like that's what impressed me, as you're
Yeah,
like just
yeah,
flying,
yeah.
and then you're just like, oh, bomb,
What they
right
built.
there,
And yeah, just the experience of being in a taxi for the first time on the main street in Las Vegas. So strange. Just looked like a caricature of a city.
Yeah.
Just the big fucking hotels
the fake,
with the,
the
gold
fake,
fake
Eiffel
like,
Tower,
fake
Oh, and the
Eiffel
pyramid.
Tower.
The big pyramid, like what?
Everything big, just everything. Signs
Yeah.
are big.
Yeah.
Even the woman had like huge fake tits. I mean,
boobs.
everything was
Yeah.
big. It was a very strange experience, but I kind of liked it in an ironic way. I'm not sure if I liked it in
I
an
don't think I
honest
would
way.
go
Yeah.
there on purpose. Like, I still don't understand people that like deliberately take a week or 2 off and then
I
go there.
understand. I mean, if you
No, but like
if you like
let-
gambling, that's the place to go. Come on, like this doesn't get better
It's just like
than
it's so unilateral. It's the one thing that you do. That's it. At least like even I still don't understand people that go to resorts, but at least there you have the sea. I don't know.
Yeah,
you
you
can
go
walk, you
swim
can-
in, drink, hang out,
And then in Las Vegas, you just
gamble.
gamble.
There's also like the shows,
Mm.
like the show atmosphere.
that. Yeah, MMA. I mean, UFC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
It's quite huge, yeah.
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of those like weird attractions. You know, like Disneyland does nothing for me.
Never been to one.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. The rides are cool because you get strapped into a box and they just launch you. But I don't know. Seeing some guy dressed as SpongeBob, and I know it's for kids. Like, I understand.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think until we don't have kids, we can't really say much about Disney World.
But it's again like it has the same concept.
All right,
as
wait.
American.
Here's a better case. The fake Harry Potter world.
What?
There's like 2 fake Harry Potter worlds.
Where?
One's in Florida and one is in
London, Ontario.
LA. So I've been to both. And super cool, you know, like
And
super
you really
lucky.
don't like Harry Potter.
No, I love Harry Potter. Like Harry Potter's awesome, you know, good books, fun story, you know, lovable characters.
That's what got me into reading.
Yeah, me too. You know, it kept me into reading.
It's becoming one of those stories that I keep repeating, like just like me, like when we went to, I didn't tell you, when we went to our Canadian trip, when we got to Vancouver, for some reason I'm like, you know what, I should probably check the surface, like the area, how big it is. I had the feeling it's the same as Moldova. It's like almost exactly the same. So I keep
And then the
repeating
moment
the same
he
fact.
found out about that fact,
Oh, I just told
there's no
everyone.
human being on the surface
There's
of
no
the
one.
world that
I
knows
just-
him or he knows that
I mean,
doesn't get it.
Every single cashier was getting that info. Like everyone was. I had to.
So you're the guy holding up the line.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the hunting. It's just a segue, you know.
That's
Out of nowhere.
You were shopping for things, meat.
Come in, meet. Oh yeah. Fuck.
You know that game? There was a game, you know, when you were a kid that you play with the association. So you just like start
Yeah.
with a random
Yeah,
word, and
yeah,
then
yeah.
you somehow you make your way to complete a different one that is somehow related. Well, anyways, like, don't you feel like you were really not kind of on the fringes, you know? Because like again, I have the experience of Toronto youth, right? Or like the young people from Toronto. Probably if you stop, I don't know, 10,000 people on the street and you ask them, are you into hunting? Maybe one is gonna say yes.
Yeah.
They're extremely liberal. Let's say that.
But like, do you have a feel that you're like, you know, like one of those like, yeah, I'm on the fringes.
Bad boys.
No, because like the internet, right? As soon as you look on Facebook, go find Hunting Ontario, you'll find groups of crazy people who want to rant about like, hey, do you know Okanagan? Are the moose having sex around there? Like, I want to know, have they started banging each other yet, right? Because it's when the season kind of
Can
gets
you search
on.
that on Pornhub? Actually.
I don't know, probably.
Let's do it.
There's probably some trail cams out there. People
That's such a strange thing, yeah. If you think about the way men interact online, especially too in these communities.
the
I don't know, maybe
weirdest thing.
Maybe it sounds reductionist. Maybe I'm overgeneralizing, but
No, you're not.
I'm sure women don't talk about these
Yeah, they
varied topics. You
When
know,
a
like,
woman-
hey,
when
are
a
these deer
woman-
fucking right there? Because I want to take my gun. And fucking what?
on these groups, when a lady like posts something,
Everyone's just like,
literally the creepiest weird
Oh,
shit, and it's like you could do anything. You could be making ceramics, and there's gonna be a guy who's like, I jizzed 8 times watching that. You know, like, just people are freaks, and you can't help it. Like, if it's a thing and you can film it, and
And
someone
she's
else
like
can watch it.
remotely attractive, not even like
Yeah, it
as
doesn't
long as
matter.
it's a woman.
But we're getting into a time when it's really dangerous to be
Strange.
that fucked up, you know?
Yeah,
Because there's the boundaries that are built in the last
the trolling is
5 years
very
or so. Yeah.
yeah.
Like before, like you would only get like your friends laughing at you that you're some sort of a freak. But now you can actually lose your livelihood. You can like be fired from your job. You can be like completely taken out of the society, and that's a hard one. Because I mean, in the same time, you don't want to have crazy people
But
keep
you're gonna
saying
have
crazy
them.
things all over the place. But then
But they
you're
exist.
defying the point of freedom of speech and the
Right.
balance itself, you know, because only if you hear these voices you can counterbalance them somehow. If you don't hear them and then those people at some point explode, like I remember the terrorist attack in Toronto, that incel guy. Like I have
Yeah,
never
yeah.
ever heard about incel before that happened.
Yeah, me either actually. Yeah, kind of learned about it after. Or in New Zealand, the other guy more recently, I guess, 2 years ago, 1 year ago.
Oh, the one with the AR.
What, the
I think
mosque?
so.
The mosque
Yeah,
guy?
the mosque,
Yeah.
in New Zealand.
Yeah, so I mean, like, there's a danger in giving them a platform to speak, but there's also a danger in keeping them silent.
I lean more towards the belief that it's going to be more dangerous for our society to suppress them. There's got to be some sort of filters and some sort of, I don't know. It's a tough topic, but I lean more toward freedom of speech. At the same time, I understand that platforms, for example, alternative platforms that advertise themselves as first and foremost as a freedom of speech platform, tend to attract people that kind of like their definition of freedom of speech is just to say stupid shit. you
Yeah,
know?
but then we get the example of U.S., right? When you have the president who keeps saying that the election was rigged, and like his word, his freedom of speech, basically still like really got to the point where you had people just freaking storming into the Senate. Now, how that happened?
I don't know how much.
That is a question. I don't want to be.
I don't know how
a
much he
conspiracy guy.
contributed to that, though.
Well, I mean, when you keep saying that the elections were stolen, the election was stolen, and then you basically just say that people should march on the Senate, then.
Yeah,
As the
but
commander-in-chief, as the president,
he
you
did say-
should be more temperate in what you're
to
saying.
be the
The question,
devil's
though, is I
advocate, he
don't
did say
understand how-
peacefully.
I don't understand how in U.S., a country with so many security and like intelligence officers all over the place and police all over the place, how those people were able to storm the freaking Senate. That's the parliament of one of the biggest countries in the world.
I don't know.
That's-
For me, I'm not surprised. It kind of makes sense. Fucking clown world, man. Like lately, come on.
Okay,
Well,
I'm going to
once you agree
say
with me-
I've done zero research on any of this.
It's not about the research.
No,
it's
I know,
about, like,
but
Do we
that-
look like
but
people
I'm
that
not
do
a-
research?
But
I
that's
mean,
the
let's be
problem.
honest.
I can't, there's nothing for me to add to it.
No,
you
there-
know?
you-
I don't know.
you
Like,
can have
if
an opinion.
I
Oh,
mean,
no, we can have opinion from this point of view, like with freedom of speech. Like, to what point the freedom of speech has to be has to stop, or you have to be accountable for what you say, right? Because if you're in a position where you can, where your words can literally incite real life events and actions, then that's where the boundary for me is, you know.
yeah, I
But
would
how do you
say,
quantify that?
It's hard because, like,
well,
it's-
you define like what is a call to action
Yeah.
versus what is just
And different
speech.
people have different opinion on what is a call to action.
yeah.
Some
So
people
that's
think
kind
in
of
a more
like,
subtle way.
did they yell, you know, there's a bomb in this building, or pull a fire alarm? Because then no, you're going to directly impact other people financially, physically, emotionally. Actually, you know what? Not emotionally. I don't think that counts.
in what sense?
Well, just because you said something and it made someone sad,
Yeah.
that doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean that it's wrong. Like, or sorry, not that it's not wrong. It's just that it shouldn't be illegal to
Legally,
say
yeah.
things that make people upset.
Because that's one of the sad things that is happening right now. Like, we're past the point where, like, we got to the point where someone's emotions, like the whatever you perceive, right, is more important than just the freedom of speech. And that's weird because different people perceive certain insults or certain words differently than others. And you can't just like go all the way to the most vulnerable, and if you like, you're not allowed to talk about them, and because you cannot talk about them, you have to limit everyone else's speech.
It's a very dangerous place to go into because for me, it's like you can't put the genie back into the bottle. You know,
Mm.
once you
Yeah,
go
'cause
that,
it never
pa-
stops,
that way,
right?
it never stops. The logical conclusion is, you never know. Like people that cheer for their opposition getting censored, they don't realize that it's their turn will come too, if they approve that kind of.
Yeah, that
censorship,
is
so.
very clear from history. Like,
Yeah, of
as
course.
soon as you have a revolution, the next thing that happens is a counter-revolution.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
they wipe the floor
Which
of whoever
usually
did the
is
first
even
one.
more violent.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a pretty common theme, if you will, throughout revolutions.
So how do you guys see the American society at this point? Because
it's
There's
hard.
things that are very reminiscent of where our condition. There are some conditions in place that are very conducive to a potential revolution, and
It's not, I don't think, going to be a revolution.
or sort of more of a civil conflict.
Yeah, I think that's already started.
Oh yeah, it's been going on for like years. I think.
Yeah, but now it really is two
Ramping up.
worlds. Like people
It's two
live
worlds.
in, and that's generalizing that it's two worlds, because really it's like, oh, you're on this team. Well, like we have a subsect who believes that this thing isn't real. Like they think the moon's not real. We think it is, but we didn't go. You know, they think it's flat. So we're all together. We know it's all a lie, but we're just not together on like which one is the lie.
And you're bringing up a pretty good point, because I think there's a big issue in the the political system that the U.S. has with two parties only. Because that's the thing, you end up being either in one camp or the other. You can't really be in the middle.
It doesn't matter. As soon as you get over a certain amount of people, like I'm just saying, like when you get into the idea of like, you know, we all kind of think this way. As soon as you create some kind of like unique identity, you know, like you said, when we were driving together, one of the things we bonded over was like the idea of hunting, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe 10% of people in Canada, I don't know, arbitrary number, agree that that's something worth even knowing about or talking about. Many people, you know, that conversation would have been, yeah, I hunt. Oh, I don't like that. And that's it. And that's fine. Like, you don't have to. But now we've clearly created two different identities that, you know, are a part of our, like, interpersonal canon.
But that's also the problem, that before I felt like opposing views could coexist, you know? And I feel it more and more now. Like, it should be either one way or no way, you know? There can be a plural view on issues and things.
Yeah. And it depends on the issue. I mean,
but basically anything at this point, everything is up for debate now. And like, it's not bad that it's up for debate. The problem is you're completely dismissing the other part without even listening to it.
Yeah. So a lot of that conversation then goes around, like when people are trying to limit rights or like whatever it is, you know, whatever the situation is. So in the case of hunting, like a lot of people think it should be illegal to hunt. Like they don't think it should be legal for anyone to hunt, which is like, okay, you're allowed to have that belief,
opinion,
right?
yeah.
Like I don't think you should be kicked out of the country for thinking that.
Yeah.
You know, a certain subsect of that group are going to be very easy to dismiss as just like completely illogical. Like if you eat meat, then you, like, I don't get it. Like because you outsource murder to somebody else, then you're morally
And the way the meat is
I mean
mass produced.
Either way,
is way
something's
more cruel.
dying, you know, something has to die to feed
That's
you.
actually interesting, because that's one of the things, like, a lot of people would have a hard time explaining. If you're outside the hunting world, it's a hard time, like, motivating and defending this point of view, you know, that hunting should be legal. Like, why exactly? Like, what are the reasons why hunting should be legal, and what benefits are to that?
Yeah, and I mean, like, I don't want to say there's, like, some conspiracy of, you know, people out there, like, targeting hunters and whatever. But, I mean, like, if you look at what's going on in other countries, I believe, like, last year or the year before in Poland, they passed a legislation. You know, I don't know the specifics, but to my understanding, they limited the ability of people to teach young people how to hunt. So in Canada, I believe there's no like age limit to go, but like if you actually actively want to do the hunting, I think it's 12 years old. So like you have to have someone with you, obviously there's rules, but there are like youth hunts, like getting children involved in the activity is you know, considered normal here.
But then they wouldn't use guns. They would use what?
No, like a kid can use a gun. Like there's no, yeah, I mean.
That's going to be like the only thing we take out from this
discussion.
Oh,
fuck, yeah. And they'll cut in something about child soldiers.
Yeah, that'll be in the trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, so to my understanding,
Like, what's the advantage? Like, what do hunters bring to the world? Like, that they have to be around, that they are allowed to hunt.
Well, I think that's
I mean, that's
the
a
argument. Like,
skewed way of looking at life.
no. But like, when people say like hunting should be illegal, like, what are the arguments for the hunting to be legal? That's what I'm asking. Like, that's something like, for me, I can't understand, because I understand that money that hunters spend are
That's
money that
one.
are used for conserving the.
so there's like
the environment
so
as
many
well.
levels to this. It's kind of a question of where you want to stop. I mean, like,
When the cameras are gonna die, so. Keep going. Sorry.
like there's so many levels to it, right? So there's the dietary aspect of it. I mean, you know, tonight we ate duck and deer that I hunted
By the way,
myself.
one of the best meats I've ever had in
Oh
my
my
entire
God,
life.
Okay,
so
so
good.
it tastes good. So so to go outside of the dietary aspect, like, look at the cultural.
Sorry, just to be on this point, but like, it would be basically unsustainable if the current world
Yeah, if
population
every
would be
single
hunting
person
for their food,
transitioned.
right?
But I don't think we can look at the problems we're facing on the planet in such a way that, like, oh, this guy shot a deer and he fed his family this year, therefore, you know, I'm living in Brazil, I'm gonna go find a deer,
Yeah.
you know, I'm gonna go find a white-tailed deer
Exactly.
somewhere. Like, it doesn't work that way, you know. So, you know, a little on my background, I did my master's in global development studies at Queen's University. And my focus, I didn't do like an actual thesis-based master's, which I don't think should be even allowed. Like, I don't understand how.
Why?
Like, you don't defend a thesis. You just write a paper and you're
You don't
professor.
defend a thesis here?
You do normally, but they also offer, like, they give you the option to not write one and still give you an MA, which
What
to me
is
is
that?
kind
That
of,
makes no sense.
yeah.
When you're so good that like you don't even. need to
Yeah,
defend
exactly.
it, you know what I
Except
mean?
not really, you know. I mean, like, what the heck?
Yeah, but
it
like,
seems.
we got to the point where the inflation in education just got to this level where masters is basically the bachelors that used to be 15 years ago.
I think that's part of the problem. We're not making people defend their arguments. So no one actually went through, you know, my professors did, but anyways, sorry, kind of a roundabout way of saying.
No, it's not.
That's more. That's
It
exactly
wasn't
part
like
of the discussion.
Yeah, anyways, but the focus of my research was kind of looking at the average diet in North America, specifically Canada, and like what is it and why are we so concerned about it, right? And so, like, a big thing is meat. Obviously, that's the main protein source for a lot of people. North Americans are some of the highest consumers in the world by a long shot. You know, like, take a guess, how many kilograms of meat?
A year?
Yeah,
A person?
A person?
yeah, for like in Alberta, a male.
I will say
200, 300?
No. 80.
That's low. I think it's like 100 kilograms a
I'm
year,
Close.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
which is pretty crazy.
Yeah,
like, that's a lot of protein.
It's 1/3 of the year. You're basically eating meat.
That's a lot of meat.
Yeah.
So
A kilo of
again,
meat, if you eat
there's a
kilo.
lot of debate about, like, is meat even good for you? Is it bad for you? Whatever. Just based on the research I did, I looked at some literature reviews that, again, kind of looking at all the studies and kind of
Yeah.
sifted through all of the information. And their conclusion was that non-processed meat, so like fresh red meat, can totally be a part of a healthy diet. There's no difference.
But then what about that revolutionary study that was that came out a few years ago when they said that red meat
Yeah,
causes,
so
like,
I don't
there's
know.
a high correlation between colon cancer.
Right. So the
Yeah.
colon cancer thing, I don't know about this study in particular, but based on the literature review that I read, they said a lot of studies failed to account for variables such as exercise or smoking or
Yeah.
alcohol intake, which is a pretty,
Cheers to
yeah,
that.
exactly. Cheers, salute. Like, you know. So, I mean, that's an important factor to consider when you're looking at comorbidities or, you know, variables and causing
And
cancer
this is
and
such a
stuff
common
like that.
theme, especially now in the COVID times, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, cherry picking studies to say, oh, well, I believe this, and this guy also, oh, look, his research. Oh, there goes the light.
Wow.
The battery died.
How come?
Probably the cold.
Can die so fast. Was charged.
The cold.
Really?
They die much faster, yeah. And these lights actually suck up a lot of.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah,
You
keep
sure?
talking. I have one more.
Or try to turn it back on, maybe.
Can you hold it?
But
Yeah,
yeah,
keep
I
going,
mean, you know, you can cherry pick studies to
Filmează,
say
da?
whatever you want.
Da, se filmează, dar s-a oprit încărcatul.
Yeah, that's the thing about when people cite scientific studies. They don't mention that a lot of these studies get criticized by other studies like fucking half a year later. Even,
So
you know?
part of
So,
your due diligence, and
yes,
now I don't
is
want
to
to
check
shit
how
on.
relevant the studies are still are. 'cause-
Yeah, that's why I like things like literature reviews, which go through the work and you can kind of track
Yeah.
their research as well, and kind of, and again, they could have an agenda, you know, I don't know, but it's a better way to research than just looking at an individual study. And I mean, if you have no background,
Yeah.
no, okay, it's even worse. But again, as far as what I researched, eating non-processed meats, so not deli meats, not McDonald's, not, you know, things that have been stepped on several times to make it a particular way,
Yeah.
then no, it's not unhealthy. In fact, it's a good way to access nutrients you wouldn't get through plants, or not even that you couldn't get through
That's what you
plants.
deserve?
It's just they're harder to access than in meat. I think I still got some.
Oh.
Good to go, yeah.
Hold your cigarette.
Hold my beer.
And I mean, like, you can see
That,
people take their views to the extreme, you know? Like that, I don't know if you saw that lady who had a fox, and she's like, oh, the fox is vegan. And she was, like, killing the
Wow,
fox,
that's-
Oh my
basically, right?
that's
So the
just
fox was
delusional.
emaciated. I think it went
Fucking
blind, like,
delusional.
you know. And again, it's not that, like, okay, you only eat meat. Like, we're omnivores, you know?
That's right.
I'm an omnivore, you know?
We are omnivores, but I can bring some evolutionary biology into this because I've read some studies that pretty
Because your
much
friend is Brad Weinstein.
yeah, like Joe Rogan. When he had one podcast with Brad Weinstein, which is like a biologist, and then every
One
time
podcast? No. He had like tons of them.
okay, but I remember after one specific podcast, like one of the latest.
Yeah, he
I
just
guess,
kept saying.
He just
about my
kept
friend.
saying, "Oh, my friend Brad Weinstein." Anyways, there's a good theory. I mean, it's a pretty well-based hypothesis that says that look, the human psychology, the human societies were built around meat consumption. So, really, when you say we're omnivores, okay, I guess now more so, but in the prehistoric times and when the times when really the human population spread out over the globe, we were predominantly meat consuming population. You can prove it by paleontology, by archaeology, you know, by all different kinds of sciences and studies. So
Yeah, but
To-
then
to
you
negate-
couldn't come.
negate that.
The meat wasn't coming across so easily, and then they
No,
didn't have refrigeration,
no,
and
of
like,
course.
I don't know about that. I don't know, like, because
But it was an essential
it wasn't
part
readily
of
available,
our
right?
development.
You don't go to like to a Walmart, and then you don't have a fridge to keep the meat. So
It depends
only
when
eat it-
you're. It depends when you're talking about too, right? So like, have you ever heard of the Latin
What is that?
cultures? Or not cultures, sorry. So it was an archaeological find, and to my understanding, it was a salt mine in I believe it was like 2,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago, roughly.
Europe?
Yeah, in Germany.
Oh.
So it was like ancient Celts.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of what they left behind was preserved in the salt. So again, you know,
Uh-huh.
salt, you can preserve meat. We've been doing that
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
a
yeah,
very
yeah.
long time, right? So
Spices, salt.
yeah. I mean, you got to give credit to
yeah,
our
salt for sure was one of
ancestors.
the biggest discovery in human history.
Besides the obvious fire.
Yeah.
yeah, it's back to like why hunting is important. Just to stick on the trend of culture. I don't know. I notice a lot of the discourse now is about like people struggling with identity and struggling with community, things like that. And I found hunting to be a great way to do that, right?
Yeah, it's a good point.
You know, even like the amount of planning that you have to put into one trip. You know, I was joking about the moose hunters calling, hey, you know, where the moose having sex? Like, that really is part of the planning, you know? They're not nuts. Like, it really is, you want to know where they are,
It's an
right?
important detail, yeah.
Yeah, a friend of mine, when he was planning a hunt, he called all the gas stations in a given area and asked, like, hey, are you seeing moose?
Are they fucking?
Yeah, I didn't ask if they were banging around, but I mean, he did ask, like, have you seen them? So, and I mean, for work, as like a professional.
I need it for research. Are they fucking? Are they fucking? How often are they fucking?
But I think they make really weird noises, right?
I don't know about when they're doing it. I've never been around.
I don't know what kind of porn are you watching.
Yeah.
But
No.
I have no idea what noises they're
Strange
making.
question to
or
ask, really.
Stuff like that. I don't know the women at least. They sound really funny. Or the women, the females.
Nah, the sound you made is like the over
elk.
40-year-old women at Moldovan weddings. Really, that's when they're like
And
second
like a typical,
youth.
you know, yeah. Like a
Yeah,
typical
like that.
celebration, no, for
Yeah, man. If there's one thing you gotta experience is Moldovan weddings. They're
Moldovan weddings and baptisms, like
With the
Kumatri.
babies.
not bad.
Yeah.
You put the water on the
yeah,
baby's
yeah,
head.
yeah. When
Yeah,
you put
no,
the
but
baby in the water.
No, it's like that saying. Don't.
Where's
throw
the bump?
Wasn't that a thing? A Romanian baptism? They killed the kid by accident?
Oh,
That happens.
It's not like
Every
wow,
other
you know.
year.
It happens, you know.
You know, the Pope got carried away. He's
Yeah.
like,
Why do they
how
beat the
the fuck
kids?
do you do it? Like, you know,
Yeah.
that's good.
But if
This
you
says-
be in Canada, you would need a license for that.
Fuck me. Yeah,
hit the
that's true.
kid?
No, to drown the kid.
Oh.
And also lifeguard. It's like,
This is fucking dark.
it's alright, of course, because it's fucking night.
Yeah, you brought a good point about hunting. That it's.
I thought I brought a good point about killing babies.
I'm kind of past that, but I'm still thinking about the sound you made. But about.
You'll
yeah,
wake
that's
up tomorrow.
Very interesting. Next morning, you're gonna see a fucking moose fucking you in the ass. Because it was a mate call. No, the point that you, Nick, brought about hunting, it is that's kind of connects with my point about human societies developing around like hunting and meat consumption, because it's kind of ingrained in us, especially men. That's mostly predominantly male occupation, although I'm sure there's women too in it,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's a minority. Let's be honest.
Now it's the biggest growing
Yeah?
demographic.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
That's good. That's what you want.
It's
you know?
probably-
Hold on, but what do you attribute this to?
No, I
Probably dads teaching
and it's
their
like
daughters,
women
probably,
empowerement.
sort of
Like,
thing.
you know, she went and
That
killed her
too,
own
it's
food.
kind
That's
of-
pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like, hey, fuck it. I'll just
All right,
do
but whatever, man. Like
Yeah.
my nonna always told me there is a lady in her village who hunted, and she was the only one, and everyone thought she was weird.
it. Yeah.
And I'm like, well, she was probably pretty cool, you know.
Is it right? Yeah.
She's probably a pretty
Weird
cool.
is usually not a disqualifier for me.
No,
Depends what kind of weird, I guess.
Yeah.
If it's the
Oh, and she
fucking
wore
a moose
pants.
kind
She
of
wore
weird.
pants.
Yeah.
That was the other thing.
Hold
She
on,
wore
hold on,
pants
in what,
She wore pants?
What,
What do you mean?
years?
in like the 30s, 40s.
Oh my god,
man.
that's
She
even
wore
before
pants
Coco
and
Chanel
hunted.
like came up with pants
Yeah.
for women.
Oh,
you know?
she wore pants before. Oh.
Yeah, while she was hunting.
Yeah, because I guess hunting in a robe or a miniskirt is not really comfortable.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
The breeze.
Oh,
But it's
The
really
freaking
good.
How do you
though.
explain
It's
Scotland?
really good
then?
for the moose, though. It's really convenient, just so he can like come to your back and fuck you. Just lift the skirt.
Am I on a different podcast or something? Is this like a bestiality podcast?
Bestiality.
and killing babies podcast. Yeah, we're in
This
serious
is
business.
turning into Anthony Jeselnik stand-up, you know? That
Yeah.
guy? That guy has a
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
of
yeah.
jokes about like child...
I used to find him really funny, but then at some point, like, just because his entire podcast was his entire specials were
Yeah.
focusing just on the dark shit. It was like
It gets
I
a
don't
little
know.
bit old, yeah. I
Yeah.
went to one of his shows a few years ago.
that's why I love Louis C.K. because he's
Yeah.
actual like he's
It's a bold statement.
What do you mean?
in this
Oh,
times. Like,
yeah, because
no,
the guy jerked off in front of some
But that's
woman.
the thing.
Come
Like,
on,
look at the times we live right now. It's like things like this. It's just like, oh, you can't really say that. Like, come on.
No,
Like, he's
I'm
one of
not
the
saying
best-
you can't say it.
No, I know.
I'm
I know
saying
what
it's
you mean.
ill-advised to
I know-
say it
I
and
know
then
what you mean,
send
and
it to the internet.
that is exactly the point. You
Yeah.
know, is we got to a time when you can't like certain things because of people's actions, right?
I wouldn't say we got to a time. Like, basically, you're arguing that now it's more dangerous to say things that might be unpopular. Could hurt your career, could hurt your...
It was always there.
Right, but now it's easier because everybody's got a camera, you know? In a way, I'm
Thank
just
God we're
glad...
not filming this.
Eh?
Thank God we're not filming this.
Good.
Oh wait. Oh
What?
shit.
Uh-oh.
Dun dun dun.
In a way, I'm glad the stakes are like just that low. You know, just being like, basically, we're all just worried about idiots.
Like,
we're
you're
worried about
not-
stupid people saying things and convincing
You're not
other
gonna be killed or
stupid
beheaded
people.
for
You're not
That's a
burned
big
at the
win.
rug kind of, you know.
That's a big
danger.
win for
Yeah.
humans.
Yeah.
It's a big win. You know,
Imagine
recently,
before.
yeah, you'd be dead.
No, especially if you were like a sort of like you said, like if that weird woman lived in like the 16th century or something, like
Well, okay, so
it would be enough for someone to say, you know what, that woman's kind of weird. Oh fuck, she's a witch, burn her. That's it.
take like
Her life
common
is over.
Yeah,
common
do you wanna throw more wood?
ideas. You know,
Yeah.
like the idea
It's a good
that
segue.
that's big, huge.
It's actually a proper segue.
Yeah, take more.
Like the idea
throw a bigger one
that we even have like some rights, you know what I mean? Like the idea that as a citizen of a particular state, you know, there's not just like a rigid class structure that is, and any
Unless you're
attempt to
in India.
redress it. Eh?
Unless you're in India.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm talking about myself, you know, like how lucky I am and us to be able to sit here, you know, because there were times where you were open to say whatever, but one slip up, you know. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Gracchi brothers
No.
in like the early Roman Republic. They, you know, brought forward ideas that would have helped their economy in the Roman Republic. It was mostly about redistributing land. So the issue was
That's
that
a very unpopular idea.
yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, what had happened is the wealthiest classes had accumulated too much land. There's an economic problem.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, I
It
know.
sounds like
Have you heard of
we're
this
just
one?
running it out,
Yeah.
chasing our tail.
Sounds
Right.
very familiar.
So you know the story.
Yeah.
These
I
guys
know how
opened
it
their
ends.
mouth, were popular for a bit, and they stabbed him as quickly as they could. Like they were murdered.
Yeah,
pretty
you know, problems were really solved easily back
Right.
then. You
Yeah.
know, just
And
fucking
up
stab that guy.
until
That's it.
like we
fixed.
talk about our grandparents, like it was that way up until then.
Fuck.
So we're pretty lucky that like, you know,
Yeah, I guess we got maybe
For
a,
sure,
a
the
bit
value of a
soft.
human life has
when
grown
wow,
significantly.
depends who.
We're
Depends
talking about
where.
the Western societies.
Yeah,
about Western
even then,
societies,
you know,
yeah.
like
I'm sure back in like fucking Myanmar, Ethiopia, it's not the same. Or
well, look
some
at
parts
like
of China.
look at
Yeah.
Ebola, you
See
know.
us banned in China. I mean, no one's listening to us in China probably. Although I know some Moldovas in China actually.
Cool story, bro.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Sorry, I interrupted you.
Something.
Life.
Moldova.
Think about something.
Think about the life. Life is good when you have a fire and three guys
Baby,
Mm.
don't hurt
sitting
me.
by the
Don't
fire.
hurt me.
Let's make a
No
song.
more.
All right.
Oh, that's a nice fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty epic with the snow.
Very glad.
Anyways.
you stuck around.
I like how
Yeah.
how this is going.
No, this is really cool. I can't believe it's freaking what? It's February.
Is this illegal?
13.
What are the limits? Are we allowed to have 4 humans?
We're socially distanced though.
Well, come
It's
on.
outside. That's important too.
Everything's legal.
This whole COVID management situation is really weird.
Yeah.
Because
Really?
the way the governments perceive their power, and like it's basically people that have the same amount of clue as everyone else.
Yeah.
It's just
Which
they're in
means
charge.
almost none.
But they are in charge, you know, and that
Yeah.
that is a problem. That is a big problem because I feel that we're heading into a very wrong direction. With governments assuming that much power, there's no way a government could easily just like willingly give out the power that they assume over a certain time.
Plus,
And that's been
Have
seen.
you
like,
seen this
over-
one before?
What?
This movie?
Which movie?
This whole show.
Oh, this whole
Have you seen this one before?
I think
the government losing credibility.
I
You
think
know,
they're
like-
repeating like over and over and over and over and over
Yeah.
and over.
So-
Even look at freaking Myanmar right now, like with the army, you know, like that always happens.
It
Like
seems.
whoever-
I'm just saying. It seems like people are not really learning from history. You know what I mean?
Where they are.
And the worst thing is when people like try
No, it
to
seems like they're
do
not.
drastic things for the good. That's the
I
worst
mean,
thing
the
That
ever.
people
scares me.
That is always the
I
scariest
mean,
thing
the people
ever.
that want to exploit other people, they kind of learn from history
might
how
have
to
learned
do
a
it.
thing or
Okay,
two,
yeah,
yeah.
you have a point.
Yeah.
It's true because we always think
But
about
that's
the,
always the scariest thing because they never run out of reasons to take over and to be in charge, you know, to make sure they protect the population and the citizens.
Yeah. It's another danger is because they assume so much power, they're gonna inevitably lose credibility in the eyes of people.
Well, they already lost credibility.
Yes.
Think about Doug Ford. Doug Ford
Yeah.
was like dog shit before COVID started, right? Because everyone was like, "Holy shit, why did we elect him?" And during COVID, like he presented himself pretty well. I think even a lot
For
of
a bit. For a bit.
That's what I'm saying, for a bit, and then then things started.
And he
pretty
remembered
quick.
he's Doug Ford.
He's like, "Oh yeah, where's my brother?"
Okay, that's pretty dark.
Bro.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, R.I.P.
I'm
Fuck.
sure the crack was good.
Yikes.
Top
I'm
notch.
sure it was worth it.
Do you have the letter?
Speaking of crack.
There's a fire right there.
I think that's exactly how you burn your eyebrows, especially when you have a little bit of alcohol.
Just a little.
Oh, that's where my letter is.
Yeah.
Never mind.
You good? Yeah, if there's one thing I learned through this pandemic, it has been I don't know anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if I think I know something because, like you said, I'm not the one calling the shots.
Yeah.
People
I just-
in the face of crisis are going to go one of two ways. They're either going to get brave about it or completely kind of anxious. You know,
And that's what most of the time happens with most, like the general population usually goes really anxious, and that's when they agree with all the measures
Yeah.
that they would never agree before.
yeah,
you
but
know,
at the
and all
same
those
time,
restrictions.
there's also the people protesting the masks and whatever, and like,
But that's really a minority at this point.
yeah,
it's
and
a
I'd
sti-
say
it's
there's
still
a
a minority.
minority of people who are like bleaching their vegetables still because they're afraid of like viral contact. You know what I mean? Like whether
I know
you take
someone like that.
one of those routes. Like both of them are in your toolkit, you know what I mean? Like a little courage now and again is good, little anxiety now and again, pretty good.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah, you
fine
always
line
need the balance,
between.
Yeah,
right?
it's people going into the extremes and
There's
apply
a-
that to anything, right? Like,
And there's a
you
fine
know.
line between courage and stupidity, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes they're intertwined. But what scares me is that authorities, they don't, they like you said, they don't admit that they don't know something, you know. And a lot of times it's okay
Well, you
not
can
to
because
know.
you're not gonna get reelected.
Yeah, but that's a stupid way to think because I think now we got to a point when regular people, man, they just wish someone
the other
said,
thing
okay, we
too,
don't know,
though,
but we're working on it.
We
or
also,
something. It's a more honest way of assessing things when we're on a global crisis and it's something unprecedented, I guess, for our generation. Even though, to be honest, we're kind of softies compared to the previous
Yeah,
ones.
but still,
it's
for
not
us,
even
this is gonna be a defining
unprecedented.
moment.
What about Ebola?
Yeah, but
Ebola
I mean, like,
was
it never
like-
reached us. That's the thing.
It's
And
not
that's
as
why we didn't
spreadable.
freak out as much.
Exactly.
And when it showed up in, what was it, Dallas or whatever, one guy brought it there, you know,
Yeah.
people weren't bleaching their vegetables.
The thing about
I always say, thank God that
It's
Ebola is
not
not as
as
contagious as
contagious, yeah.
coronavirus is.
because it's much more deadly, but it's not as contagious.
This would have been a very different situation. We definitely would
Well,
have been sitting like
Even
this.
to your point earlier about the value of life going up, where was the rush for the Ebola vaccine, right?
You know why? Because it doesn't
Predominantly
affect
in
the
we don't care. It
Western-
doesn't affect us.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like, you know, those assholes in
Yeah.
Africa. We don't care about them. We only care about them if
Well,
we're,
we
if
don't-
we're a movie star and
You're
we're
not
adopting
allowed-
adopting children
You're
from them.
not allowed to say that, Dima.
No,
You're
I
not
don't
allowed
think that.
to
I don't
say
think
that.
that. I don't
You're
think
not
that.
Portraying
What I'm saying is-
the
You're not
general
allowed to
opinion.
say
the
Yeah,
way
I'm
it
saying about the general
translates.
opinion. Yeah, we're like,
How
of
dare
course, let's
you,
help
Dima.
those people, but
Of
I'm not gonna give
course we
one single
care.
fuck for 364 days of the year.
How
You know?
dare you, Dima? Of course we care. Of course. I mean, I wrote Je suis fucking something and put a status on my Facebook. Isn't that enough?
It was.
I wrote hashtag thoughts and prayers.
And that is always the biggest
Everything
problem,
was
you know, because
fixed.
people like we live in a time when people make everything about themselves.
Virtue signaling,
It's all
man.
about
Virtue
themselves, you know.
signaling.
It's what I say about
It's
this
what I
thing. It's
believe.
how I.
Someone
it's,
died,
It's how
let-
I
let
suffer
me-
about how other people
Yeah.
died, you know.
Someone died. I had no connection with him. I didn't really think about that person, but now because he's famous, I gotta express my opinion on social media and say something about it. Because it's very important that people know my opinion
Yeah.
on someone that's not related to me at
As
all.
if you were
about me,
happy
me,
about
me,
it if
me,
you didn't
me,
say
me.
something.
No,
you know?
it's the way I
No,
see
but
it.
the way you have to like
Yeah.
say to everyone like,
Yeah.
oh, isn't that? And again, like, okay, something's in the news. Of course, you're gonna talk about it like we're people, you know. But I get the virtue signaling of like,
the fucking
oh, you know
virtue
what a
signaling is
national
killing me.
tragedy, yada yada yada. I'm feeling for all these people. Like, okay,
My only
yeah,
problem
it's
with this
overdone.
is I'm afraid that this is going to turn more and more people against individualism, you know, and they're going to
Yeah.
start again migrating more and more towards communism. And
It's already happening, at least here.
I'm like, that's the problem. Like, again, capitalism, free market, individualism, liberalism has, like, I
Tons of
really
issues,
adhere
yeah.
to those values, and of course, there's problems as
Yeah.
with any system.
There's
But,
no perfect system.
but,
You're
but
saying there's a balance you can strike
It's hard.
between like how much we get involved in people's business and how much we just let them be. Is there
Yeah.
like an appropriate balance you can strike?
especially in this times, it's getting more and more
Stop
impossible.
it, Dima. Don't be reasonable. Don't be reasonable.
No, but what I'm saying is, it's really getting.
How
even
dare
harder
you
with,
have an
with social no,
balanced
no, but like
opinion on
with people
something?
living online, with people living their
Disappointed.
lives on social media. When you live your life like a fucking vitrine, you know, and everyone sees it, you're more susceptible to this, you know, to what other people think. And
Look,
I don't like where it's going. I really don't like where it's
yeah,
going.
the speaking of like regular day-to-day stuff, the moment I get worried is the way people speak in private and with the way they self-censor. When that reminds me of the stories that my parents tell me
exactly.
about the communist regime, or my
Yeah.
grandparents.
Like we
That
had this
kinda
term,
rings the
it
bell,
was
you
called
know?
kvartirnik.
Yeah.
So it would be like people gathering in an apartment, you know,
Yeah.
like that's where they would have their conversation.
But now they don't even say. I would say now people self-censor even more in private. Like they don't. There's no. At least depends
Because
on.
everyone has a freaking device that can
Exactly,
can
exactly. So-
can either record you or just send your message
Yes.
across the entire freaking
And the
universe.
social media lynching and all that stuff, people are more aware of, hey, this can go in the internet, this can, it's not just about the KGB following you and listening to
Yeah.
you,
Yeah, it's other people. That's actually that actually is the same thing as in the Soviet Union. It's not that most of those people were jailed and killed I mean, they didn't get there just because of KGB
It's the
agents.
fear, it's the fear of...
No, they got mostly because they were ratted by other people, you know?
Yeah, but it's the fear, the constant fear that, hey, someone might listen to us.
You're saying we've seen this movie before.
Exactly.
Because
and
I know,
that's-
like, other people, the Stasi, same thing. Again, we can take this all the way back to Marius and Sulla fighting over the
yeah,
Republic.
that's a good example.
Okay.
I know
this
about
exact
this,
same
yeah.
situation happened. Whispers on one side, one guy takes over, wipes out anyone who is even a little bit kind of...
Wait, and who won? Marius won, right? He killed Sulla, I think.
No, I don't think he killed Sulla. It was that Sulla was in power for quite a while.
Right. He was
And
like
then I
one
think
of those,
Marius came back later on, but he
Marius,
was basically like an old and crazy person
Right.
in the
right.
end.
There was a lot of
Um,
those in Roman Empire.
Yeah, no. My favorite one,
guys.
I'm probably going to get the name wrong, but I think it was Antoninus. Antoninus?
Mark Antony? No?
No. This was like much later when it was an
Jennifer
actual...
Lopez's husband?
like much later when it was actually an empire. The one emperor tried to retire and be a cabbage farmer. and like that's all he wanted to do was just hang out on an island and be a cabbage farmer. But they pulled him out of retirement. They
No
needed
joy
help.
for you, motherfucker.
Yeah, no, sorry, bud.
Yeah. How dare you enjoy your life, fucker?
So, we've seen this before. So what do you do about it?
So let's get to serious things.
You talk.
No,
What
that's
do you
a
think is
serious
going to
thing.
happen with Prince Harry and Meghan?
What?
What do you think is going to happen?
I
to Prince Harry
could
and
give
Meghan?
less shit
Like
about
this is
Who?
really bad.
That's
I know Prince Harry.
That's the right answer. Who?
The chick
Meghan?
from the Suits.
What did she do?
Oh,
in her
she's
life?
Canadian, right?
No. She lived in Canada while she filmed. I thought she was Canadian, but she wasn't actually. Too
I don't
sad.
know, man. Sure.
How does that change?
Yes. Yes.
Your life? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Cheers. Hey. Hey.
Cheers to Harry.
Harry and Mary, or whatever the
fucking-
fuck you said her name was.
I think he's the
Yeah.
he's
Okay.
the poster boy for Sims or whatever you call them now.
What?
Sims.
What?
You don't know what's that?
No, I know
The
what
Sims?
Sims is, but I don't
Yeah.
understand the context.
He's like the poster boy.
Okay.
Bro, the woman like changed his whole life. Before he used to be actually into hunting, into like more I don't
There's
know. I
always
guess-
a woman.
So
Sure,
careful, don't marry.
I'm
an
telling
actress.
you,
No,
the woman,
hey, my girlfriend
the woman changed him.
in a bathrobe, she comes out when I pulled the deer in my little Mazda 3. I'm like, I need help. Like my friends aren't gonna be here for a couple hours. Like I need help getting it out of the trunk. It's too warm. And she grabbed a leg, in her bathrobe. She grabbed a leg. She was disgusted by the whole operation, but she grabbed a leg. And I gotta say, I was really, I was really smitten at
You're
that
almost
point.
ready to go on your knee.
Yeah, pretty much. If that wasn't it, if I wasn't covered in blood, that was a good moment. I really felt the love there,
Oh,
and
man.
she's not a picky eater by any stretch. I'm an alright cook, so it works out. Yeah, and we just recently moved into this house, and I think we've done a pretty conscious effort at trying to reduce our footprint based on like what we consume. So, we're continuing to do the compost here that was already set up. And I've noticed a significant amount of our garbage has disappeared, basically. Food waste that's being diverted now. So, we're trying to shop local and stuff more. Got a nice butcher shop and a bakery, couple bakeries just down the street. So,
But I mean, the argument is going to be like, not everyone can do that because you need money.
and look, like I can't, I'm only one person, so within my sphere, I'm doing what I can, I think it's easy to get wrapped up in lofty global ideals, and it's not a bad thing to keep those in mind. Like a slogan you've probably heard is think
Yes.
global, act local. That's a pretty
Yeah.
common one.
Yeah.
And even just to get the conversation going, like I've got my buddies gardening, like, yeah, like it's not a manly activity. Nobody thinks it's a freaking manly
But that is the
activity or
most
whatever.
important thing because the only way you can change the world
Is by spreading
changing,
it.
Spreading
Yeah,
it. Exactly.
yeah,
like
yeah.
COVID,
Yeah. So like, look, man, my buddy Brandon.
I like that.
That's what that dude in China said, I'm gonna change the
Very
world.
simple. Yeah, man, Kobe was just a good guy, just good
Yeah.
intentions.
Just
and
fucking about,
Spreading
It's
the
like,
love.
it had
I'm gonna spread my love to everything.
it started out well until it got to
Yeah, no, but this is the only way actually, like, when people say, I'm gonna change the world. Well, start by changing yourself. Start by
Yeah.
because when you change yourself, you change your closest surrounding, and then your closest surrounding changes
You know what I
potentially,
think?
and then from there, it's about the nods, that like keep
Yeah.
propagating.
And they'll
this.
talk to someone and whatever,
Yeah.
right? So, and look, as far as like it's not easy to convince like a university age North American male to get interested into gardening.
Of course, it's so
Now
like
it is-
beneath him or something.
It's well, not beneath
Yeah,
it.
but
It's just
think
like
of-
why?
Okay,
Why
but
would I
also
do
think,
that?
Think about the lifestyle, right? Because when you live in a big city like Toronto, gardening it's a bit of an
First
issue.
of all,
I
you
mean,
don't
there's
have a
been-
garden.
There's been this move that kind of came obviously from the west, from the western U.S. with city gardening, But-
Honestly, the hippies kind of started that in the
Cuba.
60s.
The Cubans are really great at that because of the embargo that happened.
Yeah.
They did a really interesting rework of their economic structures. Like the guy I'm talking about in particular lives in an apartment. So, again, like it's not a major impact on your diet, right? So the guy in question grows a tomato plant, a pepper plant, whatever. That's not a significant reduction in your, carbon footprint.
I think it's more about developing an appreciation for how actually things grow.
And
but
building a connection together about this new shared interest.
Yeah.
That's part of it as well. And I know when they're studying isolation, for example, which we're all pretty familiar with at this point.
Never heard of.
Yeah, self-isolation. They found that even with like a rat to take care of or something, you're way better off. You can do it way longer, right?
Yeah.
You may have heard, like, some people have described love as like it's proximity over time or something like that. So your attachment to a person, an object, a place, or whatever is a relationship of time and proximity or familiarity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, that it's not unreasonable to understand why like a human could get attached to a plant, and as someone who loves gardening myself, like watching my peppers grow over the year, it's like exciting, it's like you watch them ripen and it's like, wow, something to do on a Wednesday, I'll come home and tend to my vegetables. It's
yeah, but here's the thing. I mean, that's honestly that's a very great thing, but I feel that especially now, like from what I see more and more in the cities, people are trying to replicate that to an extent where they start hating other people. It's all about their dogs. It's all about their like little things.
Yeah, people do that about anything.
Every other human being is just like disturbing, your universe around us.
Well, if you live in a crammed up city, it's inevitable. There's a reason why New Yorkers have this stereotype of them being grumpy and like not very nice, because there's no other way to survive in that kind of city. I think it's inevitable.
Yeah, you can't stop and say sorry to
that
everyone.
only grows us more and more apart, from other human beings, and that's exactly like when we get to the point where we get to this opposing views, as we are in right now, and everyone just like start picking up a camp. That's when things are way more dangerous, because people lose that sense of community.
Well,
and
I don't know if it's dangerous, because
because in the moment when you're so antagonized, it's much easier to harm someone else because you don't feel you all belong to the same group,
That I think is more. So you have like, how many camps do you think you belong in?
Probably like thousands. At this point, hundreds. I mean, there's less, but yes,
lots. Right?
Yeah.
So we've always been in different camps, at least as far as we've developed complicated societies, we had to have specialization of sorts, right? So, okay, you're going to have different camps based on specialization alone. That's a very one-dimensional way to think about it, but you're going to get that anyways. So, for the most part, we can coexist with these different ideas, groups, camps, whatever you want to call them. But there's always a trend of dehumanizing the other camp, saying they're evil, they're not people, we have to clean ourselves of them. That's a common trend. So it's not necessarily that the tribes themselves or the camps themselves are the issue. It's how we interact with one another that's the problem.
And that's exactly what I was saying, is when you lose this
Yeah, so I don't know that large cities are the problem. Because, again, those have been around for a while, peacefully, I don't know. Like, I don't know, we don't have a peaceful history.
For the most part, compared to the overall human history, yes, they have been as peaceful as you can get.
Right, large cities tend to be, there's always
they have
crime.
high crime rates and all that, but I mean...
Right, but is that a result of density?
No one goes to war with the other village,
Yeah. Look, it's really complicated. I don't know how else to say it. Like, I've tried, again, like with my COVID experience. So when it originally happened, like, do you remember kind of the state of mind you were in?
Yeah.
Like almost exactly a year ago. How did you feel?
Perfect. I remember I was dismissal on laughing at this all the way until March.
Mm-hmm.
And once the shit started, like mid-March, I was like still kind of ha ha. And then when things actually like started closing, travel got very restricted and all that, I was like, okay, this is good. be a very interesting time. That's why I'm saying, like,
But what did
of course
you-
we're softies,
but
but
what
this
did
is
you
probably going to
do?
be a very defining moment for our
No,
generation.
no, for sure. But what did you do? Like, what did that? Okay, so you've described like initially for about a month dismissive. So maybe you didn't change anything. It was just like whatever. I'll abide by these local rules. Put a mask on. Yada yada yada.
No,
But your life
that was
didn't
that was the times when people were.
Oh,
laughing
so
at
when the
masks.
masks weren't a thing yet.
But that's the thing, because at that point I was like, okay, this is.
You were
I was trying to
pro-mask?
call the bullshit because they were saying that doctors need masks, but masks do not protect you from the.
Oh
virus.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. To
yeah.
protect the supply, kind of.
And my parents are doctors, and I'm like, are doctors some sort of a different human
Species.
Human species? Yeah, that they.
Yeah,
only
they don't get
that's
it.
only
They-
work for
yeah.
them. And that's why I realized that there was something really weird in this whole thing.
Do you want to grab that big log?
This one?
Yeah, yeah. Let's put that on.
Yeah, yeah, well,
let's
we
get this
have fire.
nice and toasty.
Yeah. Put it with
It's
the other
getting
way around.
chilly,
Yeah, this way. No. The way you picked it up.
like that. That way
Yeah.
the wind goes away. Or rated Dima.
Ah, nice.
Yeah. So, like, your mentality was dismissive at first, so it's kind of, you know, just do what everyone else
This
is
is a very
doing.
typical thing in any crisis. You know, that's exactly what a human being usually reacts to.
Denial
crisis, you know?
or like
It's denial,
laugh it off.
and then to the point where you get to the acceptance.
So I was with you initially, like, okay, there are questionable new diseases all the time. It's like every day. When I found out what at the time were described as like the characteristics of the disease, as soon as they mentioned that it's a 2-week incubation period, that's when I was like, oh,
Yeah, me too, actually.
that's
I
the one
never-
thing.
I never laughed it off. Like, I kind of, okay, this is kind of getting serious, but I wasn't like
Yeah, once the
really
numbers ticked up
worried.
there.
But
yeah.
when the numbers ticked up and when they were talking about the 2-week thing, I'm like, okay, this is getting serious.
That was the marker for me because I knew nobody's going to change in the sense that we can adapt, but not in a week, not in 2 weeks, not in
Oh.
enough time to actually get a reasonable understanding of what's going on. You know, like the disease is going to outpace that. There's actually, remember like old Flash games?
Yeah,
Just on whatever internet browser.
yeah.
There was one
Yeah.
called Pandemic, and the goal was
I
to
had the board
design.
game.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So you design a virus or a bacteria that you tried to wipe out the Earth with.
Yeah.
And that's a good one. That's a good one to have. That long incubation period is a great one to have because, you know, no one knows they're spreading it around. So, okay, what do you do? Like, what did you do at that point when you actually started to realize, this might be more than just a weird
Well, it's,
thing?
as everyone else use as much sanitizer as possible. I've never used that much sanitizer.
Yeah,
in my
that
entire
was
Oh,
life.
yeah,
a
obviously.
change.
Because I was always kind of laughing at people, you know, that were germaphobes because they
Yeah,
would
yeah.
sanitize their hands after every single step, and then we got to the same point, you know,
But that was it. That was like the...
like wear
Did
the
you
mask,
change at all?
sanitize, and
So your day-to-day...
But I mean, like that's the thing, because my day-to-day routine stopped, just suddenly stopped because work stopped.
Yeah.
And I just tried. What I did is, and that's one of the things actually we spoke about in our previous podcast, is how adaptable human beings are. Because it only took me like 2 weeks of like, you know, going through this pain, you know, and like realizing, oh my god,
Yeah,
this is changing
rethinking things.
to the point where like, okay, I guess I can do this and I can do that, you know. So like, it's because I don't remember exactly who said this, but like again in psychological research, there's a clear pattern where they show that usually human beings take about 2 weeks to
adjust.
to a new reality, and that's exactly what happened with me. You know, like, okay, I have this certain constraint. Same as in statistics. You have these constraints, and then you just work from there.
Yeah. Did you do anything? You kind of...
Well, we kind of did most of the
It's the
things
same
together.
thing.
So
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
No, not well. The first
Like
few
with
weeks,
kayaking
no.
and
Yeah,
like, you know,
yeah, so-
going out, like
I guess.
So that was a big... That, like, you focus more on going outside
We're like,
and
we
doing
gotta
that
do
kind of
something
stuff.
that makes sense in this
so you
environment.
can fill up the time, you know, you
Okay.
can fill up the void.
You're not
because-
wasting time.
because that's the problem. You
Okay,
you get,
so that's what I was kind of trying to tease out of you guys, because I took, in that regard, a very similar kind of path. You know, I focused on gardening more, you know, I got all this time, I have more effort I can put into usually I just did 1 or 2 plants. Great, I work a job, couple extra minutes of work at the end of the day. It's good for me. Tripled that, quadrupled that because, I've got the time. I started exercising like crazy because I was bored as hell. Thankfully I bought kettlebells right before, so I didn't like have to wait or whatever.
Yeah, I got my
for Amazon.
T-Rex, but actually when it started, and then.
But yeah,
we
whatever.
did together some exercise.
Yeah,
It was good.
Go
It was a good time.
healthy and whatever. Okay,
I mean,
a
it's
good step.
ironic, but we went in the nature outside way more than before because of COVID.
And I would always do it, but it was like a very short and sweet moment.
Because you had this moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I would have that moment, but then I know that I want to
Yeah.
spend some time
Yeah.
traveling, and I want to spend some time in the bars and then in concerts and all that shit. And now I realize that that's the only thing I can do.
And
so.
we appreciated it more for sure.
Yeah.
Like our trans-Canadian trip, we wouldn't have done it, I think.
In any other circumstance, because we were supposed to go to Iceland,
Europe and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is a different path, which would have been cool.
Oh man,
but
I'm so
I mean,
glad we
this
did
is
that.
No, and I said this to Andre right away because, like, thank God for COVID, because I don't know when we have.
That's a weird way to put it, but okay.
Yeah, no, but I don't know.
That's
when
gonna
I
go
would
in
have
the
done
trailer
this
too.
before,
Thank God to
in
COVID.
any other circumstance.
Thank
Kill
God to-
babies.
Kill babies. Thank God to COVID. Moose fucking you up in the ass. That's the highlights of this
Whatever
fucking
you did.
podcast. What's the sound?
I don't know.
That's like the
Something
shit you
fell.
did to Nelly. Like, Nelly. One time when we were in Vegas and we were driving
No, we're in the canyon and
Canyon,
we're driving
yeah.
at night, like
at
in-
night, and it was
Pitch
really
dark.
like fucking like in the movies, like dark and like these trees, very dense trees.
And his girlfriend is pretty sensitive, so it would be like in
And
the
he's
back
like-
seat, and it would be like,
It's like, oh my God, Dima, stop it! It was so funny.
But the opportunity, like that wouldn't have existed, like you said, without COVID. And I think just taking
that's my takeaway.
that
I realized
mentality.
how adaptable we are.
Yeah.
Because my parents and my grandparents went through way harder times than me. My grandparents went through the Second World War and then communism, and then my parents went through communism and then independence, like really raw independence. And they had those reference points. I would never get them, right? Like I had a glimpse of it because I was born in the 90s, so I was still living like I lived more most of my childhood
Living
like,
raw,
through a very weird time when your light would go off, or like would stop like after 5 p.m. and we would only sit around candles and stuff like that. But I never really had those kind of like very defining moments that would make you completely change your the way you live.
Yeah.
So that's exactly why I keep insisting and saying that this is gonna be the moment that defines our generation, and I really hope this is the only major event that is gonna be at least in our lifetime.
I also
I don't think
realized
so. I think we're gonna have
that's
a
why
lot.
I say I
yeah.
hope.
Oh, you hope? Yeah.
I realized how like little I need to be content. I pretty much realized, look, I need something to wake up to tomorrow, like on something individual I do, like something creative. That's one. Second, I need a routine. Like I need something like to a task or something. I need people. Like I need my family. I need friends. I need someone to share thoughts with. Even if these thoughts are like very trivial, it doesn't even matter. And you need that. And it's
The
a
other
very
thing
cliche
too-
thing to say, but I kind of like realize, man, you don't need much in life to just appreciate it.
Have joy.
Yes, and
Yeah.
man, health, like healthy,
Mhm.
be healthy. That's the thing. When everyone around you gets sick and you're still healthy, you're kind of like, man, like I'm lucky.
And the
Yeah.
other thing, the other major thing I realized in this time is the value of family. Because before I always had things to do, and like I wouldn't call my parents as often
No,
no.
as I did over this time. So like again, we were actually talking with Andre before for New Year's Eve to do a podcast to talk not only about like the bad things that COVID brought to us, but also the kind of the good things. It's because it like for me it was a change of paradigm. And the way I understand and see certain things, and what the actual value is.
And how
Yeah.
lucky. Like, I'm so lucky. Holy crap.
Yeah, me too, man.
Like, the fact
that I
that-
live in this country,
Yeah.
that I'm not as vulnerable to the
Whims of the market and all.
yes,
Yeah.
to all this instability, and fuck yeah, I am lucky, man.
Yeah, I really I feel for the people right now who aren't working and who haven't been working, and like I don't know what a lot of people are gonna do.
Imagine, because you just lose in an instant. You lose the purpose of your life. You know?
The worst was the restaurant industry in particular. I feel for. Again, I'm a big food guy. I love to eat. I love to go out for a good meal.
Cinemas, hotels.
Yeah, all of it. But particularly, I mean, if a cinema closes down, okay, it's empty space. You have rent to pay. But if you open a restaurant for a
it's
week,
like a family business or something.
not even that necessarily. It's the nature of the business. Like food
you gotta
goes
be
bad.
up all the time.
Yeah, it's you order this inventory, right? And then they tell you, "Oh, sorry, guy, you gotta close." And now you just burn through all of that inventory for nothing,
And it's like not like it was a bad investment, because a lot of people, they research the area, they research the city, they know, okay, I'm always gonna have people here. There's no way like my business is not gonna go well, and then this shit happens.
Yeah,
who could have predicted, right?
I feel horrible. I'm happy that I'll be able to help support, businesses that are opening up soon, thankfully.
For how long?
Well, it depends, right? Yeah, that's the thing. We're definitely going to have a third wave. That's pretty obvious. Yeah, I don't know. The one thing I do hope for is that, you guys are probably pretty clear that we have kind of a new set of classes of people who either were working through the lockdown because they were essential, or their business could operate from home or whatever. But then there's that 10% or so of the population that was completely devastated by it.
It's also another thing, more than 10%. Interesting to realize.
Right.
In this time we realize exactly what we need, and what jobs are
what isn't
essential,
important, right? But my hope is that the people who did well are going to be more, more risky with their money, and hopefully take a kind of spirited drive in entrepreneurship and kind of help,
Yeah, but that's kind of goes against the human nature after a crisis.
No,
like
because
this,
they'll
people
still make money, right?
Buckle down more.
It depends. Again, it depends who, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing
because that's the thing. Like that's the thing that, like, the moment I realized that the financial system and the stock market in general is such a
fucking scam.
Such a parallel universe
is
during the COVID times.
It's
because you realize, like,
they're booming. It's like everyone.
It would make no sense. But that's what everyone, like.
That's why.
But that's what people usually say about stock markets. It's about rich people's feelings,
It doesn't equal economy, the health of the economy. Not always. It's not always.
Not at all.
Yeah. Sometimes it's parallel worlds. But as much as I'm a pessimist usually about the human nature and the ability of us to change, I admire the human quality of seeing positives in times of crisis. That's a very admirable thing about humans. I think that's what brought us so far to survive.
Wow.
That's
the
definitely
problem,
a
though,
key.
It's not ubiquitous, though.
Key thing.
And
I think
there's people that do suffer, from.
Yes, but even those people, I'm just thinking about regular examples of people I know, like from my grandparents to my parents to some friends. There's this thing of like wanting to find something positive, and just by the sheer statistic of life and probability and all that, you always find something positive. You just gotta really look hard for it sometimes, Sometimes it feels like it's impossible. But that's admirable.
That's one of the things I learned from hunting was like just embrace the suck,
Oh yeah. It's
a
miserable occupation sometimes.
Yeah,
right?
it is like you wake up early, for the duck hunts that we do to get out onto Lake Erie from London in time, you have to be awake around 3:30 in the morning to be in the car and driving.
That definitely doesn't sit well with people that take their vacation in Las Vegas.
Maybe not. They'd be just up still,
That's right.
Yeah. So maybe they just get in the car.
Let's just go.
Let's just go. Let's go duck hunting. So okay, you got to have a pretty fun personality to be up and cracking at 4 a.m., 3 a.m., whatever. and sit in a car with someone for a while. So you already have to be, you know, an RA guy or whatever, RA lady, whatever it is, whatever the person chooses to be. So, you know, your next step is to get into a boat and then take off in the darkness to wherever, you know, or wherever you decide your hunting spot is for the day, in weather like this, you know, if you're hitting the late season.
And if you committed, you know, you went to a difficult spot, it's not like, oh, there's rain, I guess I'm gonna go back, right? Like this.
Sometimes it's like, we gotta go.
Yeah,
But it has to be really bad.
Yeah.
Right.
No, you play it safe. You're always safe, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're, I'm not a boating expert.
What's the danger in hunting in rain? Like,
Not rain in particular. I'm talking about like you're going on
Like taking a
a
boat in the rain,
16-foot boat into
right.
one of the Great Lakes. Like
Yeah.
that's pretty. You got to know what's going on.
I think we felt
there,
that
right?
when we went in Algonquin, when that rain started out of
Yeah.
nowhere.
So that's
It's
We're
a
in
small
a boat.
canoe.
Right.
We're in
you
a
know?
canoe. Yeah.
It feels like halfway.
the weather.
almost.
You always play by the weather. You never.
Yeah.
You can't beat the weather.
But that's
right?
the thing. I mean, that for us actually was a motivation factor.
Yeah.
Because for
Yeah.
us it was like, yeah,
And there's.
yeah.
But within the limits of I don't want to die, you know.
Right.
So we've had some moments where it's like, wow, this was a little bit hairy. But even beyond those types of moments where it's actual like, a little fear going on here, you know, and I'm with this person who, you know, this could be the last person I ever see.
You felt that. Like,
Yeah,
that
one
was-
time we felt that. My friend and I went out. It was near the end of December to duck hunt on Lake Erie, and the weather was exactly like this, but snowing way more. And I have pictures from the day. Like it was rough. We never pay for the government blinds because they're closer, so it's less of a hassle to get to.
What is that?
So yeah, sorry. There's public areas that you can just go and set up in your boat on the lake, and then there's areas that you can pay, and you go to a specific spot and you have reserved this spot for whatever allotment of time.
Yeah.
So we always, every time, take the boat out and go for an hour, roughly, or half an hour, to a particular spot. Again, my friend Brent is the duck hunting expert for this area. He has particular reasons. If the wind's a certain way, you gotta go to
Okay,
this.
if the wind is there.
Yeah, exactly like that.
The ducks are
And
fucking right there.
He knows.
I know.
Like, the man, like he knows what he's talking about, right? Like he's a an experienced guy.
No, that's not like this fucking Dima fucking around. Dima, stop fucking making this
Me
sound.
on my fucking canoe.
So you go to these spots, right? Based on, you know, how the wind is that day, what time of the season it is. Anyways, so we, for the first time ever, chose to go to a paid spot because it was closer. And again, it's snowing like this. The ice is freezing really quickly. And we're like, okay, you know, if we can't see those trees behind us, we'll start packing up. Within 2 minutes, we couldn't see the trees. Like, we're like, okay, well, I mean, look, like, we're already here, you know, come on. Like,
Don't
we're
be a
really
pussy.
close.
Come
Like,
on, don't be a pussy.
yeah, kind of a lot of that. And it was, like, we had to turn the boat on every 10 minutes or so to, like, keep it warm, to keep the ice broken around us. Like, we shouldn't have been
Yeah.
hunting that day kind of thing, but we could and we did. And again, like, we could have walked out. Like, that was the kind of situation. That's how close to the shore we were. But in order to get back, we kind of had to go out a bit and then enter a channel.
Right.
So again, we've been running the boat. So we have extra gas with like a full extra tank, you know, like we're prepared. But we're on the last quarter, you know, last 1/8 of a tank, 16th of a tank. So we're like, okay, well, let's just make our shot in. We'll be fine. So my friend got a little confused because the weather's bad. We're in a spot he knows very well. But again, you know, you get a little disoriented. You're fighting with the water. Things happen. So we're fighting it. And he's like, I don't know if this is the right one. And we're
the
like,
right
well,
what? The right,
the right
turn?
channel to,
Oh,
yeah, exactly. The
yeah.
right turn to get back in. And I'm like,
that
oh,
doesn't sound
shit.
very confident.
Because all I can
Imagine
see.
the plane pilots.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sure.
No,
Yeah.
It's not a fucking
So
ocean.
we're like, okay, look, we don't have very much gas left, and all we can see for like, you know, a few hundred meters is ice and wind blowing more ice.
That's exactly what people on Titanic said.
Yeah, exactly, right? So we're like, look, even if this is the wrong one, at least we're in it.
What's the
and
worst
we
that
can
could
walk
happen?
out. Well, no, we can walk out, right?
Right, yeah.
It's not that bad. Even if we get to the wrong spot, we can just walk out into the little town that's nearby. At least we're not in the water. So we were panicked. Like, we were pretty like, oh shit, this is not a good situation. We made the right call. It was the right channel. It was all good. But in that one
Split
instant,
second,
if he had been firm on like, oh, it's actually the next one.
Yeah.
If we had to refuel or something, like the amount of wind and ice that was pushing us, like it would have pushed us pretty far, and it would have been a struggle to get back in, even with a full tank of gas, right? So that's the only time I've ever actually like, ooh, that was a close one, you know.
Yeah, but didn't it feel like an accomplishment afterwards?
Yeah,
That
100%.
is the
It's one of my
thing, you
favorite
know?
stories. It's so
Like
fun.
the worst
It's a
things
cool
are
story
always
to
Yeah,
tell.
and he's
Always
one of my
the
best
memories.
buddies, right?
They're always
Because
the best memories.
we went through a frozen wasteland together. Like, oh, this is so fun. We got 3 ducks, you know, like no concern.
I don't give a shit about the
no,
ducks.
our lives.
the
It gives you an
ducks.
understanding
Yeah.
of how weird human beings are. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
Weird
we just do the
things.
weirdest thing for the weird.
Yeah,
weirdest
for the
reasons,
goal,
you know?
man. Like, I don't know how to explain it, or
Not
even
to feed yourself, not to like.
no,
It's just for
just
no
for the
reason.
fun.
Yeah.
Like, and no,
Not
because
even
there
the
is
fun,
a part of it.
It's the wanting to challenge yourself or something like that.
No, but I mean like for no reason, for like no living reason.
Yeah,
no
I don't
for
need
feeding
it. I don't
yourself
need
that-
it.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
But
It's
then
as
you
if
go
people
into
need
the
struggle, you know.
you go into the civilized world where it's like, oh, you know, like this Starbucks line is taking so long, and it's like, I don't
But it
give
is a problem
fuck.
sometimes. Come on.
Yeah, like, you know, time is money. But I mean, it takes your level of concern just goes right down. Like
Right.
and part of it is me, the person.
Yes.
You know, my characteristics. I'm fairly laid back. Like, there's few things that really get me
Bother you,
riled
yeah.
up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have to say, like, it really helped me become a proper adult, I think. Like, I'm a goofy idiot many times.
That
but,
one instance.
Eh?
That
No,
one
not that one instance necessary. I mean, that was definitely something that put a little hair on your chest, but, you know, and people have been through so much crazier stuff. Like, that's just my little, like, ooh, you know, that was kind of a neat incident. But
that's the thing.
everyone needs that, you know?
But that's the problem, you know, because as human beings, you always learn best from your own mistakes, you know, or your own experiences rather
Yeah.
than someone else's.
Yeah. I mean, I am a big proponent of reading because I think it allows you to condense experiences you didn't need to have.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't need to go to jail. I've read a few books
course.
about life in prison.
Of
I'm good.
course.
You know, I'm good.
Plus,
I don't
funny
need to
'cause I
experience
always-
that one.
I always had this moment, you know, when I would get super busy, I would be like, fuck, I wish I was in jail just so
Yeah,
I could
I'm
read.
good.
Just so I could read, you know?
Yeah, I'm good.
yeah, but you know, in between the reading, someone's
Yeah.
fucking you up the ass, and it's
Yeah.
not the moose.
Yeah.
It's not the moose.
Maybe it is.
Something that seems like
Yeah.
a moose, but
So,
yeah.
but yeah, that definitely.
I think the anecdotes alone of like dropping your fucking whatever what do you call it? Like sapuno.
The soap.
The soap and someone fucking you up in the ass. That anecdote doesn't like
Yeah.
bring me joy. So
I mean, I don't drop it even
that
in my
alone
own,
is
I
enough
don't
for
drop it
me.
even in my own shower, so
yeah.
Out of fear?
yeah.
It's in your shower.
You never know. You never know.
You never know. Oh,
yeah,
fuck.
it's I don't know. It's not for everyone, obviously. Like, even people who eat meat. Nobody in my family. I have, on one side of the family, I have 30 some odd relatives. Not one is like interested in hunting at all, as like an activity they would take up.
Yeah, so I don't even probably bring it up much because
Oh no, I talk about it all the time. I drive people fucking absolutely crazy.
you're like Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
He's like Joe Rogan. Like,
Yeah,
you
a
know,
little bit.
fucking elk meat is the best. DMT, vitamin
Yeah.
D. My friend Brett Weinstein.
Have you tried Alpha Brain?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Boy.
Have you tried Alpha Brain? The fucking supplements kill me, man. Yo, it's the fucking testosterone.
But yeah, no, I definitely drive people nuts talking about it. But I don't know.
I mean, that's what's cool because you know that is the best thing when you get someone passionate about a certain
Something, yeah.
certain subject.
Yeah.
Even if you're not into it, you kind of...
That's actually what
the passion
gets
is
me
contagious.
interested. That's
yeah,
what gets me
yeah.
interested. You know,
It's the passion, yeah.
Yeah, it's
and it's great because it gives you a purpose. Like, because
murder.
yeah, not in always.
No, I know.
unless
And
you're
the
unless
moose
you're,
sounds during the night.
Yeah, a pope who's who's christening people, but like
Okay.
baptizing. But
Rape is bad. Rape
Yeah.
is bad.
Yikes.
drowning kid is good
I mean,
sometimes.
no.
Okay.
That's a good actually thought experiment. What if that kid was Hitler?
Yeah.
Is that good or bad?
No, I actually.
See,
I
like that
remember
fucks up
the
with
bit.
people's
Do you
psychology.
remember the bit
It's
from
still a kid, right?
Louis
Like, didn't
CK's,
become Hitler.
last special with you know how now we got to the point where we save like the shittiest kids,
right?
we save them. You
But
know?
that's the fun thing.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's like before, you know, like
It's a
it
thought
was the survival of the fittest.
Yeah,
you know?
but in your example, you know,
Yeah.
if it's baby Hitler, what if his mom's like, oh man, this baby didn't make it, has another one, and he's worse, and he
Right.
wins, he
you
wins.
never know. You never know. Yeah.
all of these things are very relative.
Alternate
so.
timeline, we're speaking German in this
there's,
podcast.
There's this joke, which is kind of not a joke because it might have happened because Hitler
What'd you
was
say, it's a joke.
no Hitler was into art. So
Yeah.
So
It's not a
if
joke,
he got accepted to
if
the
he-
art school,
Yeah, to the art school.
who knows, man?
So, you know, like obviously...
So accept the kids in the art school. Don't reject them because you never know.
Yeah, but
man.
think about this.
Reject
Like
most of
again,
them.
like
Yeah, fuck
it
them.
wasn't just Hitler, right? It was Goebbels. It was
No,
Yeah.
no,
I mean,
like,
no.
there were
It's,
enough like because
Yes,
I
but
guess
he
he was a byproduct. He was
he
a
was
very
a
extreme
very-
byproduct of his own environment because like
Yeah,
we need to
I know
understand
the
context of that
background.
time
Yeah, I
because
know the background.
Germany
yeah.
was on its knees. It was in a very decadent
Yes,
period. Of
the
its,
inflation was huge. The
and,
people
you
had
guys
no
are
If it
not
wasn't-
getting me talking about Nazism on this podcast. We
Let's
can get
do
you
it.
right
Why
there.
not?
Let's
Okay,
do it.
so
Let's
do
do
you
it.
know the lady who was a very close confidant of Hitler? Who
Who, Eva
was
Braun?
an heiress? No, she
No.
was an heiress to a
Eva
very
Mendes.
large piano company.
She was what?
She was the heiress to a very large piano company.
No.
I can't.
Thought you were gonna
You
say
need the
very large
actual.
penis.
You need the actual like.
She was a
name.
company that produces penises, you know. It was a-
Pre-war
It's a very
dildos.
mature podcast.
Yikes.
Nick?
Yeah. Please.
So she produced pianos.
Her family's
Company?
company produced pianos,
Okay.
and she was a confidant of Hitler and a supporter of him through, to my understanding, most of his career.
Uh-huh.
So you want to
Career.
talk about the
Career, that
formative?
sounds very like.
Yeah,
you know
well, it
what?
was a career.
Well, he had a very. He had
I wonder. I wonder.
yeah.
I'd like to read his performance reviews every year.
His resume, you know.
It's not
Yeah.
good.
You know, killing about 6 million Jews.
I mean, one thing he did have good on his hands is he cured tuberculosis in Berlin because he kind of cleaned it up. So that's one good thing he'll have
I mean,
on
he
his
killed 6
resume.
million people, but hey,
That's
you know,
just
tuberculosis.
Yeah.
And the
Clean
TB
it up hits a little hard here.
yeah, I know, it does. It does.
What I was going to say about the kind of the idea that like, okay, what if somebody kills baby Hitler in that kind of unique moment in time, or he gets accepted into art school or whatever.
It's one of those things you used to talk about when you're high on weed, probably.
Sure.
Yeah.
The one
I thought he said shrooms. No.
the one moment I always think is super interesting is when Genghis Khan died,
Yeah.
because I'm pretty sure there were like Mongol armies like poised to invade Europe, and then he died and they went back instead of
Right.
committing to
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
invasion.
yeah. So one
And,
man can-
What would have
Decide
happened,
what.
you know, if he hung out for a few more months
why
or a
never
year or
underestimate-
something like that, you
would
know?
be into horseback riding. So.
and
Yeah.
fucking horse.
What?
They fuck horses?
No. Why
No,
would
they
they
love
do
the
that?
horse.
Why are you
If they
bringing-
could fuck
Actually-
deceased bodies, like come on,
No,
like
but,
be real, you know.
If you read the European like documents about Mongols back then, they kind of had
Fake news.
they had
It
a
was a little bit.
they had a saying that the Mongols sleep, eat, and like
Oh,
even
in the
fuck
back of the
and
horse?
shit on the horse
Yeah.
because they were so good on the horse. Like they
No,
were
because
good.
they were
Born
very
in
productive.
the-
You know, it's time.
It's like okay.
They were super agile. You know, they had their schedule on Google calendars. They're like, we can do this right now. We can do this right now. We only have to do it on the course.
So
Can we
like
put
an
this on a
HR
Zoom?
manager.
Yeah, what would a Mongol HR manager look like? Look,
Guys,
our
you know the
Tumans are
rape
not
stuff
slaughtering
is not
enough.
very nice. Okay, let's let's not
No,
do
they'd
that.
want to increase
I
rapativity.
remember I used to work for a
Rape is bad.
for a global company, and
Thanks.
the country
Just
manager.
confirming.
The country manager in Mongolia sent a request to our HR department asking that the secretary should be super hot. Like literally in the email.
Man,
Wow.
that's
very forward.
That's
Yeah.
very honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree, but
So what was that as a general statement about
have no idea,
Mongolians?
but-
Oh, okay, you're just
yeah.
bringing up an anecdote. I was like,
No, just like Mongols, like the closest connection I can make from
yeah,
my
yeah,
experience,
yeah.
you know?
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's weird how our brains work, eh?
Yeah.
Like, so
The
gears
weird
just
connections you
wrapping-
can make. in
Oh
your
fuck!
head.
Oh Mongols! Oh HR! What? Oh
Human
shit.
resources.
Hey, human
People. Oh,
resources.
horse is not a human. Human is on a horse. Oh, what other humans do I know?
Okay,
It's perfect.
that
analogy.
actually, I took like a class.
About horses and humans.
No, this guy, this professor, his whole thing was about how like a man-horse assemblage was a weird thing. Like, why do we call it like horseback riding? Why don't we call
And I
it a
agree, to be
man-horse
honest. It makes no
assemblage?
sense. Why do you call horseback riding? You're already on you're riding a horse, obviously on its back.
Shouldn't it just be horse riding?
Exactly. I never
the
understood that
horse.
point. And
Maybe-
that's the thing, because it's only
okay.
the North Americans saying that.
Maybe the first guys that like try to ride a horse were like,
Like
the,
from underneath.
no,
you
or
know,
like
it's
the Eskimos, like just
No.
holding by the tail,
no,
and like
underneath, like, you know,
let's
the
go.
African immigrants that would that would go
Why?
from one place to the other. Like, you know, the ones that like
What?
hang from the car.
Oh, like wow, Jesus!
Oh, Jesus.
I don't think
I kind of understand what you
it's
mean.
exactly like Jesus traveled through the world, you know?
On a
It's like,
donkey.
yay!
yeah, Jesus
hanging on the
actually
back.
walked on the horse on the water, not just himself.
Yeah.
That's my theory, at least.
What?
Jesus walked on the water on the
No,
horse.
Jesus walked
The
on
horse
the horse.
actually was Jesus.
Jesus kept walking on the horse. Like,
You know what? Jesus got all the credit, but it was actually the horse.
They painted the horse blue
Yeah, right.
while he was in the water. And everyone's like, wow,
That's
that
so
guy's
gay.
good.
And then the horse got a boner for no reason.
yeah.
You know what I learned the other day?
About the horse boners.
Kinda.
Pretty big balls.
Apparently, like, you know how we uncover dinosaur skeletons, stuff like that?
Yeah.
You know, like dragons, that whole thing? Like, apparently they were
I
finding...
mean, I fucking watched Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
obviously I
okay, so you understand. Apparently, like, in medieval times, they would find dinosaur skeletons and be like, oh, it's a fucking dragon. You know? And
Right,
they
yeah,
just,
yeah, yeah.
oh, okay, that makes
Dragon,
sense. And I looked a little more into it, and apparently, like, in ancient Greece, they would find them. So a lot of, like, the mythology about giants and stuff, they'd find, like, bear skeletons, like ancient bear skeletons, and be like, oh, my God, that's a huge dude.
Yeah.
And they'd dress them up. They'd be like, oh, we got to rebury it.
So you mean Bigfoot is not real?
No, Bigfoot is real. And
Because I was like,
Obviously.
it's impossible for it not to be real when you walk on the flat surface.
You know,
on
have
a
you ever
flat
heard of
Earth. Like,
Survivor
it makes
Man?
no sense.
have you ever
Yeah,
heard of
I've heard about
Survivor
it,
Man?
yeah.
No.
He's
Yeah.
a big Bigfoot guy.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah, he's like
Oh,
all
who's the
into
Survivor?
Bigfoot.
It's like a
this
Canadian,
Canadian
show,
guy.
but I've heard about it mostly.
I
I
don't
think I've seen
You
some
know,
highlights.
like Bear Grylls.
Sort of.
So
Yeah.
they were
Probably
all,
more hardcore.
anyone out there now who's like, oh, I'm in the woods. I haven't eaten in 3 days, you know, and they're doing that crap. It's all based on
moose
Survivor
almost
Man.
Has
fucking-
anyone
Yes.
watched Grizzly Man?
Oh, yeah,
Fuck,
yeah.
that's the best thing
heard
ever.
about it.
Like, it's
I've
sad,
heard
but I
about it.
couldn't stop laughing.
The guy got eaten,
I just
right?
could not stop laughing. It
didn't
was
see
so
it yet,
funny
no.
because like you realize right from the opening moments how this is gonna end. This
Yeah,
was
oh
the
yeah.
perfect documentary. Like, obviously the guy had, you know, some sort of a disability and all that, but like it was so freaking funny.
I mean, you can still laugh. I mean,
It was really
So
funny
what,
because like
right?
you understand the premises of the documentary right away. Like the guy is going to be friends with freaking grizzly bears in Alaska.
It sounds fun. I'm pro bear, I have to say. I don't think you should own, you know, wild animals,
But it's cool though.
but it's pretty cool.
I think I have a feeling the bears have the same conversation. You know what?
You
Shouldn't
shouldn't
own
hang
a
out with
human
them.
being.
But, like, they're
Eat
pretty
them,
cool.
but, like, it's pretty damn
Eating
cool.
one
cool.
sometimes it's okay if it's a little human. You know,
They have
it's not a
really
big deal.
this stuff, this peanut butter.
Right?
It is
Like,
delicious.
oh,
I would
Especially
raid a
if
house
they're
for
on a
that.
vegan diet, you know, and like
The bears?
yeah, no,
Sometimes.
not the bears.
If
the
it's a
humans.
bad year.
The
Oh, yeah.
humans. The humans are on.
Could you imagine a bear breaks into your house and he's like, "What the fuck
Fuck
is
is
this? Soybeans? What are you, an idiot?" Like,
It was not worth it. Not worth my time.
he just packs up and leaves.
It's like, oh fuck.
Oh
Why
man.
does he pack up? Does he come with his stuff? We're like,
Yeah, he's got his
like,
suitcase. He's like, "What the hell?"
Starts opening
Locks
them up and
the
like,
door for
"Fucking
you.
Nah, fuck this shit.
Ah, fuck.
I'm out of here, man.
Sucks to be a bear.
But I mean, like, you know,
It definitely sucks because that's exactly what they do during the room.
Have you actually seen a bear do that?
Of course, every day.
in Toronto.
No.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, downtown.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's exactly
On
what
the
people
subway.
downtown do.
Yeah, on the
Because
subway.
I do work in the area where you get the most interesting people.
Yeah. when I love the idea of a big city. Like, my favorite thing is to just sit in a balcony or whatever and just have a coffee, a beer, whatever, and just watch and listen, you know? It's kind of nice. There's something cool about it.
But then once you live in it,
But,
it's like, ah, fuck these
you know,
people.
one time I got off the train, I saw guys selling meth to each other right in front. Like, I got out and they're just passing meth right back. One guy was
Regular
sleeping in
downtown shit,
traffic.
nothing
One guy was
surprising.
shitting in a bag. It was like, oh my God, you know? Like,
That's what life is.
yeah, and look,
You know
I
what?
don't,
You know,
I get
fuck
it.
hunting.
Yeah,
fuck
I
everything else,
that's
you know,
the
back-
wild.
big
Shit in a
backyard.
bucket in the middle of
Yeah.
the city. That's
That's the
pinnacle
life,
of
you know?
civilization
Yeah,
right there.
and I know it's like we gotta deal with that kind of thing.
No.
People
We
need
gotta
help.
tolerate them because they have their own fetish, and they're very sensitive, and it's very important to not hurt their feelings. And you know what? They have feelings too. They have their communities. The same way you talk about hunting, they just gather in the middle of the
And
city.
they talk about the shit in their bags.
and they
I'm
shit
gonna
in
be
the-
honest. If it was
Yeah.
a fetish, I'd be more understanding.
Yeah.
If that guy was rubbing one
Yeah,
out, I'd be
but
like,
that's-
oh, okay. But it really is. He just can't get a toilet, you know,
Yeah.
and that's what makes me sad.
But what's the solution to that?
I don't know.
Hold it in.
No, not just shitting
Hold
in
it
the
in until.
bag. Like to,
you know that episode in.
'cause I went
has,
recently-
has anyone seen that episode in South Park when they shit through their mouth and eat
Yeah,
through their
yeah.
ass?
Yeah, I don't think that works.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's.
yeah, South
that-
Park was actually
That's the
very-
solution to the people that shit in the bucket. Like, you know what? Just
Shove a
try the
banana
other
up
way.
your butt. I don't
Try
think
the other way,
that's-
man.
I don't
Just-
think that's medical.
My parents are doctors. I know what I'm talking about.
True.
Of course.
Yeah, I don't know what to do.
You know what? Every time you bring that anecdote about the gynecologist, I
Yeah.
still love it. To be honest, like
Yeah.
it's,
Do you know how a gynecologist checks his time? Checks the time. Do
I
you
don't
know?
want to know.
it, never,
He's like, I don't want to know.
it never gets old.
That joke left a bad taste in my mouth.
Is it though? Is it kind of fishy?
It's like deer.
Well, actually, that deer was pretty fucking good.
I like how we went from
The segues.
smelly vaginas to like tasty deer.
Yeah, and it all started with what? With hunting?
Before that, with
Yeah.
Making some wild parallels right now.
yeah, I think that's legit.
Yeah.
That's the kind of conversation I want to hear in Parliament. You know, like, no, we should legalize moose fucking you up the ass. No, shitting in the bucket is important.
And then there's
That's the real issue. No, that's something I would watch.
No, it's shitting in the bucket. That's important.
My people, the shitter in the buckets.
They've been shitting in
Mug
the bucket
buckets.
since the dawn of time.
My grandpa,
It's for our culture.
Dandy McBuckets, was shitting in the buckets
I wish
since he
your
was a
problems
little
were that
child.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But I
we're
feel we're kind of there, you know?
no.
Like,
We
no,
shitting
no.
in the bucket,
No. In the Western world, I mean, obviously
No.
we have a lot of problems.
Yeah,
but
we got a lot of problems.
but
We got-
shitting in the bucket is the
but,
worst.
But whatever,
Come on, let's be honest.
whatever is predominant in the mainstream, you know, it's the problems that don't seem to be that big of a problem, you know.
But we have a real. That's the scary thing is we
And
have actual problems that need to be addressed, and people are dealing with like
Superficial shit.
Kevin got hit with a dodgeball.
Yeah.
He's now afraid of all red balls. So the school board has to now ban this. We're still confiscating them. They
no
found
one's
a
allowed to
kid.
have bulls. Okay,
So,
every
yeah.
single guy cut their balls
Meanwhile, there's fucking indigenous communities in Canada who don't have any clean water.
Yeah,
And it's
that's
like,
true.
okay, can we not do this first? Then we'll deal with Kevin's balls, and then we'll go from there, okay?
In that order.
I just don't understand the hierarchy of
I just want to
what's
see
important.
the
is-
Prime Minister of Canada just like dealing with the bulls. Okay.
You know what? These bones
He's a
need some
proctologist.
attention. Yeah.
Well, we have
Imagine
Prime
being a
Minister that is good in
proctologist.
everything.
Don't you imagine like sometimes like things like that? Like imagine being a
What, are you
proctologist.
matching balls? No.
No, I'm
Not every time.
proctologist.
As a job, I'm good, man.
No, but like, what conversation does he have with?
Who? What? When?
With,
Some probably
with his
hilarious
wife
ones.
at the end of the.
Saw a lot of balls today. Is that even what a proctologist does? Like, I don't know. I'm not.
So how was it? Well, I went deep into one.
I got a
ass.
really ballsy guy today, you know?
Yeah, look,
Uh,
I can't advise people on medicine. Like, I don't know.
Oh man.
Go talk to a real doctor.
Right.
So, with the COVID thing and everyone's like, oh, I read a study. Like, shut up. Just shut up.
Yeah.
Like a guy.
It's funny how everyone became a fucking epidemiologist.
Yeah, shut up. Just shut up.
Yeah, everyone
like-
became
like
an
2
expert.
weeks,
If you guys all shut up, the actual doctors could figure it out.
It's if you breathe in the anus, it does not transmit
Yeah.
because you have a mask on your fetus.
Like
You
I
need
had a
3
guy tell
masks,
me,
3
you know,
masks.
oh, the latest study says this, and then what I'm gonna do is this, and then he went out for a cigarette, and it's like, what the fuck do you care about the disease if you're smoking cigarettes? Like, Jesus, priorities, man. Like, you know.
Yeah, that's funny.
And
Yeah,
again,
man. Cheers to that. Honestly.
yeah, it's a little silly
For health.
to health. Like, jeez.
To hell with health.
Yeah.
That's a good name of a podcast.
That totally reminds me of the way
Just
we
people
Moldovan
eating
people
McDonald's.
we have the probably have to be the most ironic like people on the earth. Like, you know what? For health.
Yeah. This is
for
90
health.
proof, or sorry, 90% alcohol.
For, you know what? For health.
You know what? It kills you.
You know what?
I've been drinking this for my entire life,
And I never died. And I never.
and I'm only 27.
And not even once I died in my life. You know, like I'm still not dead.
The key is a drop of kerosene. That's what really.
Oh fuck. Yeah, man. I don't know. It's we make jokes about it, man. Our nation drinks a lot, even
Yeah.
statistically, like top
COVID's
5
making
almost.
Well, it's the
everyone
top
drink
in
a lot,
Europe,
man.
so per
Fuck,
capita.
insane. I think Belarus kind of
No, in
Oh,
Europe
thank
we're
God.
top
yeah,
by per capita. Yeah.
we're fucked.
No, come on, we're funny.
We are funny though, yeah.
We're
It's
happy.
not alcoholism, it's humor.
Yeah, no, man. You
No,
don't
but,
understand.
But it's true though. Like our conversations, like regular, I'm way more
But the life would be so much
boring without
you know?
alcohol. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be
Yeah,
like,
it's-
it would be
I
like,
don't like saying that, but
imagine
it's true.
living in COVID for your entire life. You know, that
Yeah.
would be without alcohol.
Fuck.
No, I'm kidding.
I was like,
That
what?
sounds like a propagation for alcohol.
Sorry, what?
Alcohol is bad, but
No,
sometimes
cheers.
it's good.
Cheers to that. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. You know what? We're drinking fresh water out of the
Snow.
mountain of
We just melted some snow.
yes.
Moldovan ice crystals.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, look at the.
I know,
at
you
the
see it. The
That's
air
pretty-
is getting
pretty dope.
sucked towards the fire.
Oh yeah, that's
That's pretty dope.
very cool.
Yeah, the I don't know. You guys are an interesting duo because you came from another country after your formative years. You know what I mean? But then
Yeah.
also had some other formative years
Oh yeah, for sure.
here, and you know, like personally, I always like I'm a Western person. Like it's pretty obvious.
But you're
But-
not very typical.
No,
Western
I don't think so. No,
No.
because
male of your age.
yeah, thank you.
No, it's not a compliment. It's just a statement.
No, you're a piece of shit.
It's
Okay?
like,
Like, no,
this
no,
guy.
Fuck you.
That's not a compliment. I'm a man. I don't give compliments.
That's gay. Come on, no. Preserve the masculinity.
like that?
It's not a compliment. I'm not weak. I'm a man. Fuck you, woman. It's not a guy. You're not beautiful, but I like you. I'm gonna fuck you, but you're not beautiful. It's so fucked up, man.
Yeah. So what were you saying?
I don't, but like, yeah, I feel like a Western person. You know, like I speak Western languages. I very much think as a Westerner, and even my connection.
Hold on, what do you mean as a Westerner thing?
Well, like if you think, how do you frame things, for example? Like,
yeah, your mental models, but like what are they?
I don't know. That's a hard one. Like,
'Cause again, it depends on the situation.
I
right?
think I had to learn to think of myself as a part of this bigger system. So I think, like you were mentioning earlier, the individualism aspect here, that's important. And I think it is important.
it is important everywhere.
Of course. So that's important, but as well, like you are an individual, even just in the biological sense, like the natural sense, like you're an individual within a system, right? Like no matter what, you're tied to the system. You can't really help it. And if you take off and go to space, now you're in a new system. So you're still tied to this thing, whatever it is. So here, at least from my kind of upbringing and, you know, I went to a Roman Catholic school, so definitely like the
By the way,
religious
how was that?
aspect.
Because for us, for our population, it's not
That's
really
different.
a reference.
Yeah, no, that's different. Here, it's like kind of a unique thing that we have like a publicly funded Catholic education system.
Is it true though about the?
You have to go there. You have to go there.
I have a Romanian friend who went also to a Catholic school, and I like right away started making jokes about pedophilia. He's like, no, but we had a principal.
Oh yeah, we had yeah.
Oh man.
That education, it almost very much leads you to be like, no, I'm me, and there's the stuff around me, but like I'm me, you know. There's like a barrier drawn between yourself and what's around you. And that's true to a degree, but I think realizing like, man, I could get smoked by a dump truck and like the world is gonna keep moving.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a very poetic way to put it.
well, it happened to a friend of mine, so I know.
Really?
Yeah, a friend of mine was hit by a cement truck
Jesus fuck.
and was killed, and so I know at a very young age, lovely
God.
human being, you know. So I know, like, it doesn't matter how great you are, it doesn't matter who you are,
Yeah.
like you are one bus away.
And
You know,
and
like
life goes on. That's the thing. Like,
Yeah,
you
and it'll
realize
keep
how
going.
insignificant a human life is
Right.
in the scope of things.
yeah, and you're gonna affect the people around you, and you know, like.
But that is the important thing, because if you're an individualist, the idea is that you're making the world, your life better, and by extension, you make the life of everyone who surrounds you better, and that is the idea. That
Yeah.
you make like, again, it's a very libertarian thought, which I don't necessarily agree with libertarians overall. I think they're a bit too extreme.
But that's the whole thing,
But
right?
that's
It's
the
the
idea,
extremes.
you know?
You don't go to the extremes.
But that's the idea, you know, that like you as an individual, your primarily goal is to make your life around you as best as possible, and therefore you influence everyone, other people, because it's you know, like the neighbor rule. You know, it's like if your neighbor sees that you're doing great, they want to kind of match you as well in a way. So.
Yeah, I would
when
add,
you're going with the other extreme, like again, I'm very emotional about this because I come from a country that was plagued by communism, and
I'm
the
not gonna.
idea itself is very noble. No one is saying that the idea is not knowable, but in terms of application, it's impossible because people are diverse. People are different. You can impose the same values in the same way and the same style of living, the same clothing on everyone, and think that everyone's gonna be happy together. Yay,
No.
we're all miserable together. You know.
But that's not the expectation.
No, but that is the reality. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
In practice, that's
Yeah,
the-
and look, there are worrying trends for sure.
Look at this
The
one.
one in particular that kind of freaked me out was, you know how Donald Trump was in Home Alone?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and these people away from there.
The
yeah,
idea,
Yeah.
so it happened first in Canada. So the CBC ran the movie over Christmas, and they left out that scene.
Oh, really?
And they just said, look, it was for editing, like, because of commercials, they have to cut out certain content. They said, okay, we did it because of this. Sure, whatever. All right. I don't think you did, but sure. Then it was, no, we're just going to cut them out. Like when Netflix, I believe it was Netflix, when they took on the movie, they just cut him out. And again, like, I'm not a Trump supporter. Like, he's done vile things to the kind of framework that we're operating in as far as political discourse. And I think he's lent himself to the kind of dehumanization that we've been talking about as problematic. But to edit him out of a movie is exactly what Stalin did. Like, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly
You know what
he
happened
did.
with when Beria became, you know who Beria was,
Mhm.
right? When
Yeah,
Beria
and how'd that
became
go for
a
him?
persona non grata.
Mm-hmm. And he was
Everyone
edited
was
out of
told- no,
photos.
because
Wait,
so,
who?
so just Beria.
The guy with the glasses and the
Yeah.
Can
he
you
wa-
explain?
He was the. He wasn't in charge of KGB.
He was a high-ranking. I believe he was involved in the NKVD or whatever
Yeah,
before.
NKVD.
Over there? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Anyways,
he was in
he's a
charge of
part-
that, but that's the thing, because he fell out of grace because he wanted to take power, and obviously he didn't, and because at a certain point, the most of the citizens of the Soviet Union had the great Soviet encyclopedia. and you had their page, like it was going by letters, same as dictionary, and then you had different people and events and stuff like that in countries. So in all those books, everyone was told to rip off the page with Beria from their encyclopedia.
And they literally edited people out of photos.
Look,
like that was a thing, you know?
That's a cliche, but it's the same exact thing that George Orwell was writing in 1984. They're rewriting history and taking out personalities and changing facts about events.
And how, like, I don't understand the purpose behind it. So we can all agree, sure,
so
this
short-sighted.
person's...
It's
it's intensely short-sighted. Because how hard is that that conversation, Like, say, what's the worst thing that could happen? Like, you're watching the movie with a child, and a child watches it and goes like, wait a minute, like, this guy I've been told who's terrible is, like, a pretty nice guy in this movie, you know? And as a parent, how can you not just say, well, you know, he's acting first.
It's just a movie.
It's a 2-second scene. He's acting. And this happened in the 90s.
Well,
so, you know, over 30 years, people can change. Wow. Oh, now you have a learning moment with your child. Oh, look, people can change.
That's the same thing that happened to Gone with the Wind, which is a classic, right? And then if you go on Netflix, it says this is a movie with a very with the racist character.
That
like
at least is preferable because, okay, they're providing context to it and saying, it's goofy. It's goofy.
But think about this. Like, what is your predisposition to watching the movie when you read that comment?
This is a racist movie. I'm like, of course.
It's a disqualifier.
But at least they didn't get rid of the movie and be like, you can't watch this because it has these connotations.
Yeah,
I'm okay.
It's not patronizing. It's not like...
It is a little bit, as if you couldn't watch the movie.
It's not as...
But they're basically saying someone might watch this and not realize it's bad.
Like, you can watch it or
sort
not.
of have
Right.
a
So,
choice.
like, with old footage of Hitler, do we delete him from the footage?
No, but what do we do with Michael Jackson? Do we should just stop listening to his music because he was watching into kids' assholes?
Allegedly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna stick with the Hitler thing. Like,
not a huge pop guy.
Yeah, I'm not a big pop music guy. Like, you if you delete the memory, then you're gonna have to explain to children why it's happening again. You know, like, I don't know. It just seems very, as Andre said, very short-sighted.
If you put it into overall terms, it kind of plays into the infantilization of society. It's just treating us as we're kids. You know?
Where people are viewed as babies, you know, and everyone needs to babysit them. And that's a very dangerous thing to do.
It is.
Have you heard of Daryl Davis?
No.
So he is a guy who de-radicalizes neo-Nazis. Yeah.
Oh, I think in US, right?
Yeah.
An Afro-American guy, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he's a jazz singer. He's a really good musician. Joe Rogan one. Yeah. So if you haven't listened to it, I highly encourage it.
No, it's great. Yeah.
Like, just such a fascinating human being, and like what
what he's talking about, because he's a musician, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's how he kind of connected with a lot of people.
I remember that story when he was talking with that guy from the KKK when they sat at the bar and they started talking, and he's like, "Wow, I never thought I could sit with a black guy like that."
Yeah.
Like,
and then on the flip side, like, as a black
incredible.
man, how do you sit with a Klans member, you know? Like, that's just...
Once you're deaf.
It's crazy. That's crazy.
But that is the only way to overcome, you know, this...
Well, it just shows, like, okay, you have a gentleman who's got a lot of skin in the game. You know what I mean? Like, he could have been killed in many of these encounters that he went to. And I'm not advising, like, the average person who is anti-racist.
What he did is very unusual.
Right. But celebrate that case and realize, like, his thing was not, I want these people thrown in jail for being dumb. Like, I'm actually going to go and talk to them and explain to them why they're dumb.
Education of people,
yeah.
You know?
Because, I mean, there are, like, the big fear and the reason behind censorship is bad ideas that lead to something, like some kind of violence,
to
I
action,
assume.
to real-life events.
But if you force that away, then you're not going to know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know?
And
like,
that's
my
exactly in the
my
beginning of
argument,
the podcast, you know? It's like, where do you draw the line?
Yeah, to me, it's calls to action. So, like, a verifiable this
it's-
person said this
when it's obvious.
and said this person should go kill so and so or whatever. You should go kill so and so or you should hurt so and so.
Yeah, but you realize that a lot of times it can be just contextual. You know, it
No.
doesn't have to be explicitly said.
No, if you say so and so should be beat up.
Over a long time, right? Over a long period of time, you incite certain feelings into people, then, like, again, of course, like you're thinking as a reasonable person that you make a decision not just based on what like someone implies, but not everyone thinks the same way.
Yeah, but like,
and a lot of people
how
that
many
are not
idiots?
educated, that's exactly what they do. They take the clues, right? They take those bits of information and then they
Look,
compile
yeah.
their own image of the
Also,
world.
my belief is,
But now
people
you're
that
lowering
get-
the burden of proof to like what is wrongful speech to just like, well, we can make a few causal links
Who
between
decides
this and
that?
this, and that's a whole other question.
Yeah.
But like, you get what I'm saying? Like, there's definitive
no, I
ones.
understand and,
There's
like, I
definitive
mostly agree.
ones.
I'm just like trying to be the
Yeah.
devil's advocate,
No,
you
I
know?
get that. I'm just saying like, saying like we should go harass this person. To me, that's on the side of illegal speech because you're advising others to go and commit a crime against another human being.
And that is a big problem.
So that should be not allowed. And
that's
I
a
don't think that
no-no.
is
That's a
allowed.
no-no.
So no, but I don't think any like like even in the States where freedom of speech is protected as a right, I don't think it allows for calls to action. Like, I think that's a pretty definitive line. Like, you're not allowed to yell fire in a building
Yeah.
because of the ensuing chaos. So there's reasonable restrictions in that regard. But now
But you see, the reasoning gets way more fluid in these times.
that's different. This is a
And
whole new era.
interpretation
So
is-
the
is
digital
very different
age
of
and
certain,
the-
of certain events and,
Yeah.
and things.
Yeah.
The medium through which you can, I guess,
they're
spread
very
dangerous
dependent-
ideas is way more potent. You know.
And they're very dependent on the current context, you know, of what,
Well, yeah,
what
naturally.
things can be said and what things cannot be said.
Yeah, it's a sticky wicket because on one hand it's like I cannot be sympathetic when people say stupid things and then there are consequences. However, I don't want a kind of arbitrary body deciding
what's
what
right
that
and wrong.
is. Society is not great at it. Like, we've essentially created
Never have
an
been great
internet
at
mob.
it. It's always
right?
changes. Yeah.
So it's not great, right? Like, we can't just rely on what, like, we had people eating soap because the internet said so. You know what I mean? Like, a lady gorilla glued her head because the internet said so.
And look, part of it isn't it coming down to
Again, I'm not always against this because this is a natural selection, you know.
In a way, yes.
That's my point. Not even that, but it's
Like no,
but our idea of fixing everything in society and controlling how people behave
I don't want to
is
control. or
very.
fix.
But
And that
you
is,
can't.
and that is,
Even if you want to, you
Yeah, I
can't.
don't want
that
to at
speaks
all.
But you
to
can't.
the bit that I was bringing about Louis C.K. We know with saving every single kid. It's about what society decides that we need to value and save and put a pressure.
But fundamentally, it's impossible to predict all human behaviors.
and it's impossible to control everything.
And it's
around you.
impossible to predict how some isolated guy that his life has been miserable is gonna listen to some speech of some guy that's very
But
charismatic and a bit fucked up in the head.
Again,
How
like,
can you know how he's gonna
From a
react,
different-
even
from-
if he doesn't incite violence
understand.
directly?
but from like again trying to take the other point of view.
I know, but
it's that we're trying to improve to the point where we can juggle with this, where we can control this. Like that is essentially what human beings have been trying for most of the time, is trying to control your environment as much as possible. And in a lot of instances, this has been a success.
Look, I see no
But
other
obviously, there should
solution.
be a limit, and that's the thing. You never know when to draw this line. You never know when to put a stop.
For
to the
me,
progress,
it's
you
actually
know?
not that complicated in an overall sense. It's I don't see how. The only solution I see is education, as just speaking openly to each other, and
then you
expecting that
realize-
things are gonna inevitably go wrong. It's just the way it's always been.
But then
and-
you realize that education
No, but the
is
logical
very
conclusion
dependent.
of censoring is always the authority, some central authority that's gonna decide who to censor, and that inevitably is gonna bring, I would argue, to
And
even
it's the same
worse.
with education, because a certain a central
It's not
institution.
That's really indoctrination.
A central institution.
No. That's a very different thing.
No,
Education,
no. But education in the grand scheme of things.
What does education
It is
mean?
decided by certain institutions, right?
But education at the end of the day means giving you the tools to educate yourself at the end of the day. That's very different than a central institution.
This very much depends
saying
on
what you should think and what you should say. That's very different.
It's the same thing as what happens in Russia.
It's intertwined, but it's very different.
It's the same thing as it happens in Russia.
Yeah, what happens?
In the recent years, they've been changing the history. They've been changing the history books. That would suit them, you know. That's why I'm saying like education is it's a very
well, I'm not talking only about official governmental institutions that mean education.
But for a lot of people, that's the only education they get.
What are you going to do then?
Not all the people are able to be socialized with people that have different views. And people
what are you going to do then? My point is also educating through normal people-to-people conversations, in the sense that a parent should educate his child that, look, everything you're learning from school is okay, but you should always question it.
But not every parent is
well, how is that gonna? Okay, but realistically speaking, how is that gonna parent get to a point where he's gonna be himself more educated to I guess
transfer the knowledge
to his children, of not in the what to think but how to think. That's the main point.
Oh, that's a big
that's the thing.
That's a big thing.
That's a very difficult thing to
it's difficult, but it's not impossible, and it's not going to happen with everyone. We should expect that. It's not going to happen to everyone.
It can't happen.
It's all these ideas of fixing everything in society are very utopian. I don't think it's doable.
I understand, but that's the idea, that we're, by striving to improve as much as you can, like you're hitting,
the
right notes.
vorbim în română câteva minute.
Da, știu, dar pohui. Bля, dacă tot vorbim în
I guess. It seems like a dilemma, but for me, I'm pretty certain on this. I think that's the only solution. Educating ourselves and talking openly.
Yeah, no, I agree, but the problem is...
I'm not saying it's a final solution, but it's the only solution I can see working.
Final solution? You gotta be careful with that.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I mean, like, you gotta be careful, because that's exactly what the Hitler's
not only him
of dealing with Jews. That's what was called the final solution.
A lot of people worded it that way, that we're gonna do this and everything's gonna be fucking perfect from now on. Yeah, tell me about it. Like, it never worked like that. Just if you follow the logic of censoring, it always goes down to that tyranny. It always went to that.
Yeah, but that's the thing. We live in a very atypical time where it's not as much censoring as self-censoring.
Is it that atypical?
It's atypical because there's more self-censoring than just censoring for this, like, just by being censored by someone, you know?
Yeah, but
like,
is it really self-censoring, or is it more self-censoring out of necessity of preventing censorship from someone?
Yes,
it's
but
like
the thing is that
preventing the risk, I guess.
That's right, but the thing is that, like, normally you would elect to just disregard, you know, what the general public's views are, and just say whatever you want to say. But we live in a time when the self-censoring is way more predominant, because, and that's why I'm saying again, because of the social media, you know, because of your life being put out in the open, in the World Wide Web.
I mean, yeah, we live in a world
where you have to be
where
careful what you say, you know, because
not even that, what you said 10 years ago. Like, someone, if you're a famous person, someone
that
might...
is the worst thing.
That's very strange. Very strange.
And that's the thing, because most of those people, like, they say those things 10 years ago before they were famous, you know.
No, but one thing about, like, Kevin Hart, if you remember, when he was supposed to host the Oscars, one thing that was crucial here, he apologized for it way before. Like, he addressed that joke that he made.
It's never enough.
And that's the problem. If the apology is not enough for something that wasn't really criminal, it was just a bad joke, and he apologized for it multiple times, and then 5 years after he apologized, someone brings it up again right before he should host the Oscars or whatever. Yeah, when is it enough?
And that is even worse now because I
if
feel
we can't
got to the point
accept
where
an
there's
apology,
where there's no way of redemption, you know?
yeah, that's the
Because
problem.
if you did something 10 years ago,
That's tyranny.
just by saying something that was kind of acceptable at that time, and now it's just not acceptable anymore, you have to suffer your entire life for that.
Yeah, it's a very illogical way of hoping that society would be fixed by this kind of thinking. It's and it's very hypocritical. It's like, hey, let's be very kind, let's be understandable, and at the same time we're like, don't even give some people a second chance for not a crime, it's just a bad joke, right?
Dude, just be glad we don't exile people anymore. They used to be a big thing. Oh, you
Yeah.
did one thing we didn't
I
like?
understand, but like that's
You,
that's the
to
thing,
the
we can't-
islands.
I
Go.
understand. But that's the thing. We can't just like compare, you know, like that. There's no way you can progress if you just compare
No.
yourself to the past, you know.
However, that does help you take lessons from what happened. So
And
what
it's
was the
important. I'm not saying
alternative?
history is always the predictor of the future, but
No, but it rhymes.
Yeah, no, I agree too.
It just helps.
It helps, but it doesn't say that history is not math. It's
A little bit.
but not you can't say a little bit. Math is math. It's not, right?
Is it?
it's exact.
Is it? Is it math? Is math exact everywhere?
Look, it's exact, but we develop different knowledges and we improve our math. But at the same time, you know, it's math is math. It's
So like, how would you figure out? Because you know how time can be distorted by
Yes.
your perception.
And time is a very
So how do
esoteric
you-
concept in itself.
How do you figure
not
out?
that it's esoteric. It's just time space. Space is it's intertwined with time. It's the Einstein theory of relativity. You should always take into account the space and the gravity and all that. You know, the time being relative. Fucking Interstellar, and that's one thing that's right about Interstellar is the time being relative when there's a black hole nearby because the gravity and all that shit.
But like, how would you
That's like that should be the description of Interstellar.
gravity and shit?
Gravity and all that shit.
But I just mean like when you're doing certain activities, time speeds up or time slows down.
Yeah, that's
based
the
on your
perception.
perception.
Of course.
Exactly.
So how do you measure that perception? Like, how do you measure how much a particular activity slowed down time for your perception?
But
Like,
again,
is it
Yeah,
10% slower than an hour?
Your perception in
20%?
this
Your
case
percep-
is
yeah.
a subjective thing that doesn't affect the actual.
So there's a
passing
little
of
bit
time.
of fluidity to the whole
It's a
thing.
fluidity,
at
but at the
least to
same
your
time, the same
experience.
2 hours passed, even though that you felt like it was 3 hours. It doesn't matter.
So
2
your
hours
feelings
And
don't
this
matter.
planet, on this.
Well, of course, in the grand scheme of things, nothing matters. Like you look up at the sky and you're like, whatever, yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah, this
But
argument
that's the
is.
thing. I mean, like we go back to the point of like you make your own sense, you know.
This argument is for me used to impress me when I was a teenager. Now I think it's very stupid when like
It's
in
not
the
like it's
cosmic
stupid, it's just
terms
like
nothing matters. So
you have a
fucking what?
It's just
constraint that you
not
have to live
productive.
with. That's what your life is.
Not even that it's productive, it's just fucking stupid. Like, so what if nothing matters in the cosmic terms that we're a fucking little planet in the middle of the whole universe? So what? What I do right now matters. When I behave in a shitty way with
That's
the
exactly
human
the point.
That's what I
person,
mean, it's
What
not
matters to
productive.
you
Matters.
because
That
you
matters
create your
because
own world, you know.
that creates a butterfly effect. That creates the way that person's gonna hear me talk to him or whatever. The way
Hey,
I'm
eventually,
gonna
if you
behave.
fuck up if you fuck up the Earth and then it
That
just like
matters.
everyone dies on Earth.
So
Doesn't
what?
really matter in the grand
right
scheme of
now,
things, but
right
it matters
now,
to
this
us,
matters.
right?
This whole grand scheme of things is a very arrogant people type of way of speaking. Doesn't matter. It always matters. Everything you do matters. It's it's a stupid escapism and fucking. It's okay to be fascinated by astronomy and all that, but you gotta understand there's a difference between a life here and life in cosmic terms and cosmic years and all that fascinating stuff about seeing the stars on the sky and realizing that you see the past because the light travels through amount of time and some stars already dead but you see the light. Yeah, that's fascinating. That doesn't really affect the life here, okay? So we should always put that into perspective.
Okay. And on that note, very philosophical note, that we're
I agree. That's actually, I'm surprised that ended in such a
Yeah.
philosophical note because it went from
That was basically nothing
From rape
matters.
to- from rape to
alright.
Hitler to moose
that
fucking to
exactly
ducks to
describes the name of our podcast, you know?
yeah.
We're just going all over the place, and...
The one thing we didn't do is talk about how great it is to podcast.
Okay, let's do it.
Podcasting's great. It's really easy.
Right?
You just sit down.
Yeah.
And
No, but
open your mouth.
this
honestly,
type of podcasting, right?
I'm just like if you try to conceptualize this, that's what we would do normally, just without
Right.
microphones and cameras.
Just talking.
Just talking, just sitting
Exactly
like
the same.
at the
That's why
bonfire.
this whole thing of suggestions of hey, let's present to the people. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe some whatever, like hey, thanks for
That's
watching.
not how
but
normal discussions
that's
happen, you
just
know.
stupid, you know. Not my preference.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I think-
we're really thankful you accepted our invitation.
No
Well,
problem.
Oh, yeah.
invitation because this is on your turf.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks
It's
for
been fun.
hosting.
It's been good.
Thanks for
Yeah.
hosting us.
It's an
Yeah, thank you for
interesting.
hosting us.
I mean,
I
you
like
can't,
the concept.
you can't like the guys that see it on the cameras can't really see the whole backyard, but it's a huge backyard. You have
Yeah.
some
Yo.
vine leaves here. I think
Yeah.
I'm sure in the
Yeah.
summer it's very beautiful vines.
For
it'll look like
our people,
Moldovan.
it would not be such a surprise
No,
because
they'd
just
they're
say,
used to this.
"What?"
But
Yeah.
trust me, for Canada, this
for
is
Canada, that's a big deal. Yeah.
this is something you know that
Yeah.
that brings it up.
I think
Good.
that's what lacks in. That's one of my not solutions, but that's one of the ways of combating dogmas and people, or maybe understanding some different points of view, is having long form conversations with people. You know, not being limited by whatever the fucking restraints that people are socially create.
or
Yeah, so that's one way of just talking and sharing it with other people and see what they think.
And again,
about it,
if other
right?
people want
They don't have to agree with us.
They're
They might think
welcome
this is
to.
stupid, or it's okay.
Yeah,
It's not gonna. You can't please everyone. That's
Yeah.
fine. If you're trying to please everyone, you're a fucking boring person. If you think about it, like imagine pleasing everyone.
A friend to all is a friend to none.
Fuck,
Yeah.
man, it's a true saying. It's pointless.
well, that was a good ending note.
Peace out, Moldova.
Cheers out
Romania.
again.
Cheers, sănătate.
Shunarok.
Shunarok.